Chapter 2757. He wanted to tear the other party's entire arm apart. The Black Feather Monster King didn't dodge. He seemed to have transformed into a black saber as he slashed at Lin Xian's palm. With a clang, the two collided, emitting an earth-shattering sound. Sparks flew, and thunder rumbled between heaven and earth. Impossible. He wasn't injured. The Black Feather Monster King was stunned. He felt dizzy. He felt as if he hadn't collided with a palm, but a golden mountain. It was too hard. He actually didn't manage to crack it. Damn it, what kind of palm was this? What kind of physique did the other party have? The Black Feather Monster King was too shocked. He had never seen anyone with such a strong physique. How could the other party contend against him? However, this was only the beginning. What shocked him was yet to come. Lin Xian's golden palm began to close. The powerful pressure caused the bones in the Black Feather Monster King's body to creak. It was as if they were about to shatter. Damn it! Open for me! The Black Feather Monster King roared. His body was covered in black patterns. His wings were like heavenly blades that slashed in all directions. A sonorous sound rang out, shaking heaven and earth. However, to his horror, the black palm was actually unaffected. It had already completely enveloped him. Not only that, but there was a terrifying divine flame dancing on the golden palm. The temperature shocked him. It was as if what he was facing wasn't a palm, but a golden sun. Could it be that this guy was a golden crow? He was too shocked. This heat made him unable to believe it. Who exactly was this kid? He actually had such a flame that could emit a dragon's roar? Who exactly was he? The Black Feather Monster King was incomparably furious. He had no choice. He activated the power of his bloodline and used a powerful divine ability to blast away Lin Xian's palm and escape. Lin Xian was surprised. As expected of an ancient monster king, he was indeed powerful. He was actually able to escape from his palm. Kid, you have completely infuriated me. Before the Black Feather Monster King could finish his words, he was slapped on the head. Instantly, he felt dizzy. Wu Ji, the snow-white little monkey appeared around him, proud of itself. It waved its little claws and slapped him again. Dizziness. The terrifying Black Feather Monster King was directly dizzy. He felt the world spinning and was about to fall from the sky. Attack quickly. The Crimson Dragon roared. The surrounding martial artists and geniuses all attacked the Black Fish Fiend King. He was beaten back repeatedly. However, to their horror, they discovered that the other party was not injured at all. Their attacks landed on the other party's body, but they didn't manage to break through the other party's defense. Damn it, this is the ancient Demon King, a demon beast from the nest of 10,000 dragons? This was too terrifying. What kind of physique was this? No one dared to imagine. The Crimson Dragon held the Flood Dragon scissors and charged over. Clang! It crashed into the other party's body, creating an earth-shattering noise. Black Feather Demon King screamed in pain. Blood flowed out of his head. There was nothing he could do about it. This was a half-saint tool. No matter how powerful he was, he couldn't block it. The fact that he wasn't directly cut in half already showed that his physique was extremely terrifying. Stupid ants, you've completely infuriated me. Black Feather Light. He spread out his wings, and they grew bigger and bigger. They were like two dark clouds that covered the sky and the earth. The black feathers on it fluttered rapidly, forming a terrifying hidden weapon. Not good, quickly block it. The surrounding people cried out in alarm. They all used their shields and armor to block the attack. However, most of them were pierced by the black feathers and spat out large mouthfuls of blood. Only a small number of geniuses were able to resist, but they were still forced to retreat. Black Feather Demon King was too terrifying. He was fighting against so many powerhouses alone, but he wasn't at a disadvantage. After forcing back the surrounding warriors, Black Feather Demon King's cold eyes stared at Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon. But soon, he locked onto Lin Xian. The Crimson Dragon was a dragon. He didn't want to make a move. Even if he wanted to make a move, he would let the dragons in the nest of 10,000 dragons do it. The one he wanted to kill was this kid in front of him. The other party was too strange. He had to kill him. Black Feather Sword. On the wings behind him, countless black feathers fluttered and rotated in front of him, condensing into a large black feather sword. He held it in his hand. With a light wave, it tore through the void. These feathers were even more terrifying than King Kong. At this moment, the black feather sword was truly a powerful killing weapon. Kill. With a furious roar, he quickly rushed towards Lin Xian. Lin Xian sneered. He was not afraid at all. He also pulled out the Dragon Abyss Valley sword and fought against him. The two long swords clashed in the air like two mountains constantly colliding. Every strike shattered the starry sky and caused the sun and moon to dim. Damn it! How could this kid's sword technique be so powerful? Black Feather Demon King's arm went numb. The other party's strength was too strong, especially the other party's sword energy. It was incomparably sharp, making his hair stand on end. Not good. Suddenly, his expression changed drastically, because he discovered that another sword light had appeared in the other party's left hand. This sword light was like a dragon. As soon as it appeared, it emitted a peerless aura that made his scalp go numb. His heart was thumping wildly as he quickly dodged the attack. He knew that this was the other party's killing move and that he couldn't resist it head-on. Therefore, black runes flickered all over his body as he used his strongest physique. At the same time, his speed was extremely fast. Pooh! Lin Xian took out a dragon-shaped sword shadow and stabbed out. Blood splattered and countless black feathers danced in the air. This sword pierced through Black Feather Demon King's body. Blood instantly splattered out. This wasn't red blood, but black blood. It was abnormally strange. Every drop pierced through the void, bringing with it an incomparably demonic blood aura that made one's scalp go numb. Dodge quickly. Don't let this blood touch you. The surrounding warriors dodged frantically. Lin Xian was not afraid. His 9 young divine body bloomed with light and blocked everything. The black blood couldn't get close to him at all. Black Feathered Demon King's body was pierced through by the dragon-shaped sword shadow. He was nailed to the air and let out a miserable cry. His face was incomparably distorted, becoming even more ferocious. The terrifying sound waves were like waves that roared into the 9 heavens. The entire space trembled as if it was about to be overturned. Damn it, what was going on? Black Feather was actually injured. In the distance, the other 2 Demon Kings had solemn expressions. They didn't expect that someone could injure Black Feather. Who was it? Was he a young Heaven's Chosen? Damn it! When did such a powerful person appear in the human race? It wasn't just one of them. Their faces were pale because they discovered that Yi Wudao and Dustless were also incomparably powerful. They were also abnormally uncomfortable from being beaten up. Quickly save Black Feather. The sword in that kid's hand was very strange. He should be related to the dragon race. The 2 Demon Kings charged over. Your opponent is me. Yi Wudao stood out and blocked the Demon Kings that were dozens of meters tall. Golden light soared into the sky from his body, forming a golden giant. He fought with the Demon Kings. On the other side, Dustless fought against the Flame Demon King. Flower-pinching finger. An immortal flower formed in his hand, turning into a peerless immortal light that pierced through the flames that filled the sky. Chapter 2758. The flower-pinching finger posed a great threat to the Fire Demon King. Coupled with the surrounding experts, the 2 Demon Kings were unable to advance at all. Damn it, kid. I want you dead. In front of him, the Black Feather Demon King, who was nailed in midair, screamed crazily. His black blood did not fall. Instead, it rose into the air and danced rapidly in the air, spinning and forming terrifying runes one after another. These were demonic runes. They were very strange and surrounded Lin Xian. Kid, go to hell. He roared angrily and began to refine the blood. The blood burned, and a terrifying force swept towards Lin Xian, wanting to ignite him. Not good. This is a living sacrifice. Kid, dodge. The Crimson Dragon was shocked. It did not expect the Black Feather Demon King to be so desperate. This was a terrifying divine ability. It used its own bloodline secret technique to forcefully sacrifice the enemy. Of course, it also had an effect on the user. That was because a large amount of blood would be lost. Even if the user killed the enemy, the user would be seriously injured. It would take a long time to recover. One could imagine that the Black Feather Demon King was extremely angry. Otherwise, he would not have used such a killing move. Lin Xian did feel a sense of danger. A mysterious force wanted to ignite the blood and spiritual power in his body. This force was very strange. It directly ignored the 9-yang divine body. It could be said that it was impossible to guard against. If it were other geniuses, they might have despaired, because it was impossible to extinguish. However, Lin Xian snorted coldly. The great dragon sword soul surged. Countless sword chi flew out and destroyed this mysterious force. Destroy! Lin Xian was like a peerless sword god. Thousands of sword chi surged out of his body and slashed in all directions. The surrounding black blood exploded and turned into a bloody mist. Then, it was cleanly sliced, leaving not a single trace behind. The Black Feather Demon King was completely stunned. His eyes widened in disbelief. What's going on? How can the other party break my living sacrifice? This kind of living sacrifice was abnormally terrifying. There was no way to break it. This was a secret technique passed down from ancient times. Moreover, it was ignited at the cost of his blood. How did the other party break it? This brat was really too strange. The Black Feather Demon King was shocked. At this moment, he no longer dared to attack. He only wanted to escape as soon as possible. Do you want to leave? Golden runes flashed in Lin Xian's eyes, forming two strange patterns. Soul flame flew out of Xiao Qin's right eye, burning the other party's soul. A Black Feather King screamed and rolled on the ground. However, his body was still firmly immobilized by the dragon's sword shadow. Therefore, there was no way to escape. However, the pain of his soul burning made him hover between life and death. Damn it, what happened? In the distance, the two Demon Kings were going crazy. They knew how powerful the Black Feather King was. But now, he was in such a miserable state in the hands of a human brat. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed it. Damn it! Had the humans of this era already become so powerful? Both of them were stunned. They had slumbered for countless years, but back then, before the nest of 10,000 dragons had fallen into slumber, they had been the overlords of the world. Across the land, the monster race ran amok, and the ancient royal race reigned supreme. The human race was only a weak lineage that could only survive in the cracks. But now, the other party was actually so powerful. Could it be that the human race had already become the overlords of the world? He didn't dare to imagine. Soul attack. Damn it. How could this brat's soul attack be so powerful? The Black Feather King went crazy, but he wouldn't sit still and wait for death. Soul mirror. Block for me. As an ancient king of beasts, he had a lot of tricks up his sleeves. Soon, his soul condensed into a soul mirror, blocking the terrifying soul fire around him. However, the good times didn't last long. At this moment, the snow-white monkey appeared beside the Black Feather King again. With a slap of its claws, the Black Feather King was stunned for 3 seconds. These 3 seconds were going to cost him his life. The soul mirror shattered, and Black Rock Soul was burned until it was extremely weak. Buzz. In Lin Xian's left eye, mysterious golden runes appeared. He wanted to forcefully control the Black Feather King and make him his slave. This way, he would be able to control the other party and understand the secrets of the nest of 10,000 dragons. The Black Feather King rolled in the sky. His body was split into 2 halves as he kept rolling. He wanted to get rid of the control of the soul imprint. However, Lin Xian's heavenly secret divine eye was too mysterious. In the end, he still planted a soul imprint. This made the Black Feather King become Lin Xian's slave. He recovered and knelt down to listen to orders. Lin Xian was like a supreme king as he issued an order. The Black Feather King's broken body quickly healed. Then, he knelt down on one knee and bowed to his master. Seeing this scene, everyone around went crazy. Whether it was the saint, the geniuses, or the 2 demon kings in the distance, they were all stunned. What was going on? The Black Feather King was actually controlled. This Lin Xian actually had such a method. The human cultivators were extremely shocked as they looked at Lin Xian with fear written all over their faces. The other 2 demon kings glanced at each other before turning around and fleeing. It was too terrifying. These humans were already so terrifying that they didn't dare to make a move. They could only leave first. The two of them forced Yi Wudao and Wuchen to retreat. They used all their strength and turned into streams of light to escape. Yi Wudao and Wuchen didn't make a move again. Instead, they turned to look at Lin Xian and the Black Feather King beside him. With a flash, the two of them flew forward. The surrounding humans also gathered towards Lin Xian. In an instant, they all gathered around Lin Xian. Brother Lin really had a good method. Wuchen's eyes lit up. The 1-pound leaf Dao denier also asked, "Brother Lin, are you controlling me?" Lin Xian nodded, then looked at the Black Feather King. "Tell me what you know." The Black Feather King knelt on one knee on the ground, very respectful. He said in a deep voice, "In ancient times, the powerful existence of the nest of 10,000 dragons deduced that there would be a crisis of world destruction. It was not suitable for survival at all. Therefore, the entire nest of 10,000 dragons was sealed, waiting for the crisis to be resolved. Then, it would recover and reign over the land. It turned out to be such a thing. This was not the burial place of the dragon race, but the resting place of the dragon race. Heavens, they seem to have discovered an incredible secret. Originally, they thought that this was the ancient tomb of the dragon race, where countless dragon race corpses and treasures were buried. But now, it seemed that this was not the case at all. For unknown reasons, these dragon race had sealed themselves and fallen into a deep sleep. They hoped that they would wake up after the danger was resolved. In other words, the real dragons in the nest of 10,000 dragons were probably sealed in the divine crystal like the 3 demon kings in front of them. As long as the divine crystal was broken, these terrifying dragon race would recover. Heavens, everyone's faces were filled with fear as their bodies trembled. If the 3 monster kings were already so terrifying, how terrifying would the real dragon clan be? They didn't dare to imagine. Chapter 2759. Not good. Even our sect leaders are in danger. Many of the elders from the sacred grounds turned pale. They had to inform them. Indeed, what they needed to do now was not to explore the nest of 10,000 dragons. Instead, they had to leave this place quickly. It would be best if they used a peerless array formation to seal this place forever. Otherwise, when the dragon race revived and appeared on the ground, then the entire land would be plunged into misery and suffering, and war would break out. At that time, it was really unknown whether the human race would be able to resist. Therefore, these people's faces were filled with fear. They hurriedly activated their secret techniques in an attempt to contact their sect leaders. But just like before, they couldn't contact them at all. "What's going on?" Lin Xian asked with a frown. The Black Feather King said respectfully. The peerless array formation enveloped the entire nest of 10,000 dragons, preventing long-distance communication. "How much do you know about the nest of 10,000 dragons? Lead us to the depths of the nest of 10,000 dragons." Lin Xian thought for a moment and said in a deep voice. Since they couldn't contact those sacred leaders, they could only search for them personally. Hopefully, these sect leaders hadn't reached the deepest part of the nest of 10,000 dragons yet. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. The depths of the nest of 10,000 dragons were mysterious. The Queen Mother, Li Xuanxian, the Yi family patriarch, and the other sacred leaders set off again. They went deeper. In front of them, a small black mountain also appeared. This scene surprised Li Xuanxian, the Queen Mother, and the others. Speed up. These sacred leaders and sect leaders were powerful, and they arrived near the Black Mountain in an instant. However, when they arrived, they were surprised to find that it wasn't a mountain. It was an altar. The 4 symbols sacred leader exclaimed, and the others also frowned. The dragon race's altar? The runes on it were so strange. They were different from those of the human race. The Yi family's grand elder also frowned. At this moment, all the powerhouses' eyes flickered. They wanted to decipher the dragon race's runes, but they couldn't do it. There seemed to be another altar in front of them, and it was even taller. The Taishian sacred leader used his astral eyes and looked around. Soon, he locked onto a direction and walked over to take a look. These sacred leaders and sect leaders moved again. That's right, the altar this time was even larger. It was like a mountain standing in front of them. Before they even got close, the sacred leaders and sect masters stopped. They could feel a shocking energy coming from the front. That aura was so oppressive that they could not breathe. This was just too terrifying. What kind of status did they have? What kind of people did they have? What kind of things had they not seen before? But now, they actually felt a trace of fear in front of the black altar. Buzz, the great development's sacred lord, coldly snorted and took out a saint's sword. This was a true saint weapon. As soon as it appeared, it emitted a terrifying saint aura that enveloped the elders of the Dayan's sacred ground. The other sacred leaders and sect leaders also used their own techniques to resist the terrifying saint aura. The patriarch of the Yi family and the patriarch of the Gu family had grave expressions on their faces. The patriarch of the Yi family emitted a golden light, as if he was a real golden god of war. The surroundings of the head of the Gu clan were mysterious. His body seemed to have merged with the void and completely disappeared. Both of them were clan leaders of Clan of the Ancients. Their strength was terrifying. In the blink of an eye, they had arrived near the black altar. In the next moment, the members of the Yi family screamed, "Damn it, Emperor runes!" This was a Dao rune set up by a great emperor. The two of them frantically retreated as if they had seen a ghost. If there were other martial artists who saw this scene, they would definitely be stunned. Something that could make them so frightened was definitely not simple. As expected, when the other sacred leaders and sect leaders heard this, they also frowned. What? Runes set up by a great emperor? Are you sure? Their eyes emitted a piercing light as they looked ahead carefully. Indeed, there was an array near the black altar. Although it was only a corner, the aura that it emitted was terrifying. Don't act rashly. This Emperor rune is still in a closed state. Don't activate it. Otherwise, none of us will be able to escape. Sacred Leader Dowie said in a deep voice. The others were even more shocked, especially those sacred grounds and family clans that had been out before. A corner of the Emperor rune was only in a closed state, but the aura it emitted was as deep as the ocean. If it was activated, it would pierce through the sky. Even if they had sacred weapons, they would not be able to resist it. What should we do? Should we retreat? An elder asked. However, the Yi family leader, Gu family leader, Queen Mother of the West, and the others shook their heads. The Emperor rune was such a rare thing. Why should they retreat? That's right. Why should they give up such a good opportunity to comprehend it? If they could comprehend even a little bit, it would be of great help to them. The head of the Yi family also spoke. The others' eyes lit up. Their eyes were burning. Indeed, as long as they were careful, they could comprehend the runes left behind by the great emperor. Great emperors were existences that had existed for thousands of years and dominated the world. The things that they left behind were definitely terrifying. No matter how powerful these sacred leaders and sect leaders were, they could not be compared to the great emperors. Therefore, they only wanted to comprehend it quickly. Buzz. These experts all sat down cross-legged. Their eyes were like divine lamps as they began to comprehend the corner of the Emperor rune. To be honest, if it was possible, they were willing to stay here and comprehend it for 10 or even 100 years. However, they knew that it was impossible. A few days later, many sacred leaders and sect leaders opened their eyes and looked behind them. There was a wave of energy coming from behind. Who was it? Could it be that the bachelor sage had come? That's impossible. How did they get here? These sacred leaders and sect elders discussed animatedly. Could it be that the thing in the nest of 10,000 dragons had revived? This was what they were even more worried about. After all, they still didn't know that this was the place of eternal rest. They thought that this was an ancient tomb, so if there was a corpse transformation or something like that, it might be very terrifying. These sacred leaders and sect leaders stopped comprehending and stood up. Their eyes were gloomy, and their auras were about to erupt at any time. However, gradually their expressions changed. No, the aura wasn't that strong, and it was very familiar. That's right, this is the aura of our sacred land. Golden Chi and Blood, a disciple of the Yi family. Exclamations could be heard one after another. It was their people. They were too surprised. They had to be careful when they came to this place. How did those young disciples come here? Their speed was too fast, wasn't it? Could it be an illusion? To be honest, these sacred leaders and sect leaders were still very careful. Sure enough, a group of people appeared behind them. They were a dark mass and were quickly rushing over. The few at the front were very heroic and extraordinary. One was surrounded by sword light like a peerless sword god. The other was surrounded by golden chi and blood like a golden god of war. The other was a young monk who was surrounded by Buddhist light that filled the sky. Chapter 2760. The people around them were also outstanding. The auras on their bodies were powerful, creating a strange phenomenon in the world. Elders, sect leader, sacred leader. The people behind them were Lin Xian, Yi Wudao, and the others. They had come here under the guidance of Black Feather Demon King. They didn't expect to see their sacred leader. The disciples shouted crazily. They had no choice. The previous experience was too terrifying. Although it had only been 2 or 3 times, it had greatly reduced their strength. Now, there weren't many of them left. Most of them had been killed. It's really our people. It's not an illusion. The sacred leaders spoke. There was a mysterious aura on Shi Wangmu. The Taishian sacred leader's eye of the stars could see through everything. The yin-yang mirror above the yin-yang sect leader's head shone in all directions. It was real this time. It wasn't an illusion. The others heaved a sigh of relief. They waved their hands and shot out beams of light that filled the sky. It was as if the path to heaven was beginning to lead their disciples. Li Xuanxian and the chief enforcer also led Lin Xian and the others over. How did you get here? A grand elder of the moon-worshipping cult asked curiously. Yes, the journey was so dangerous. The slightest carelessness could have led to eternal damnation. They had been walking carefully. How could their disciples have arrived so quickly? Elders, sect leaders. This question caused many of the Holy Land's cultivators to cry. If others saw this scene, they would be stunned. One had to know that these were top geniuses, peerless experts. But at this moment, they were crying like children. This scene was too shocking. The elders and sect leaders frowned. They looked around, and then their faces turned gloomy. What's going on? Why are there so few people left? Where are the others? Are they behind us? Wudao, what's going on? The Yi family patriarch frowned. What's going on? It's a long story. We're in danger. Yi Wudao's mood was also gloomy. His Yi family had also lost many disciples. The cultivators of the other sacred lands were crying. Many of them had been killed. What? The elders' expressions changed, and the sacred lords frowned. What's going on? Tell me the details. Soon, the sacred leaders learned about what had happened. The frozen princess, the world-destroying formation, the sky full of divinity crystals, and the saint's shield with an artifact spirit. Each and every one of them surprised them. They didn't expect that the place that they thought was safe to be hiding such a terrifying danger. As for the majority of their disciples, they were directly killed in these dangerous situations. This made their hearts bleed. The ones who had come this time around were all elite geniuses. Losing even one of them was extremely painful. Moreover, they had lost so much. Then, how did you get here? Another elder asked the same question. Everyone turned to look at Lin Xian. In an instant, all the sacred masters and sacred masters turned to look at Lin Xian. Li Xuanxian, the head protector, and the others were also extremely shocked. What was going on? Could it be that their palace master had led everyone here? They didn't know. Lin Xian was being stared at by so many saint and sect masters, and the pressure on him increased exponentially. He took a deep breath and circulated the great dragon sword soul in his body to resist the pressure. In the next moment, he waved his hand, and a figure walked out from behind him. A demon king. The elders were shocked, and the sacred masters and sacred masters frowned. Palace Master Lin, what's going on? Queen Mother of the West asked. Lin Xian said, we encountered 3 demon kings along the way. I controlled one of them, and through him, we came here. Speaking of this, Lin Xian's expression became solemn. This is also the reason why we came to find you. I'm afraid that the situation is serious. This nest of 10,000 dragons isn't as simple as we think. You don't have to say that. We know that too. Sacred leader 10,000 Thunder snorted coldly. Obviously, he still had killing intent towards Lin Xian. Lin Xian glanced at him and frowned. Oh, if you don't want to listen, you can leave immediately. I won't stop you. At that time, it's none of my business if everyone from the 10,000 Thunder Sacred Ground is buried here. Kid, what did you say? You're courting death. The elders of the 10,000 Thunder Sacred Ground were also furious. Sacred Leader 10,000 Thunder's face darkened. Although he called Lin Xian Palace Master, in his heart, he didn't treat Lin Xian as the Palace Master at all. The other party was at most a young genius. How could he be on equal footing with them? However, the new powerhouses of the 10,000 Thunder Sacred Ground said, Sect Master, please calm down. Don't be rash. Yes, the situation was really serious. Hearing this, the elders of the 10,000 Thunder Sacred Ground were shocked. Sacred Leader 10,000 Thunder also asked, What's going on? Palace Master Lin, you should tell us. The Yi family also spoke. We encountered 3 demon kings sealed by divine crystals. These demon kings are not dead, but in a deep sleep. According to our guess, they should be demon kings sealed by divine crystals in ancient times. The black feather demon king in front of me is one of them. He was controlled by me, and the other 2 escaped. According to my inquiry, the nest of 10,000 dragons is not the burial place of the dragon clan, but a place of deep sleep. The entire nest of 10,000 dragons and the entire dragon clan are not dead. They are all sealed by divine crystals, as if they are avoiding a huge crisis. They are looking forward to recovering and ruling the world after the crisis is resolved. What? You're saying that the dragon clan is not dead? This is not an ancient tomb? This is just a place where they sleep? The elders were all stunned. This was definitely a shocking piece of news. Indeed. Lin Xian nodded. We can't use the array formation to send messages, so we can only come to you personally. The expressions of these sacred leaders and sect masters became incomparably ugly. The Queen Mother of the West, the Yi family head, the Gu family head, Li Xuanxian, and the Emperor Lords also had incomparably solemn expressions. If that was the case, then things would really be troublesome. The nest of 10,000 dragons was a terrifying existence. The dragon clan was a legendary race. They had never seen it before. They thought that the dragon clan had been completely extinct after ancient times. Who would have thought that the dragon clan was not extinct, but automatically sealed and hibernated until now? What were they trying to do? Why were they hibernating? What kind of crisis were they trying to avoid? The sacred leaders and sect masters didn't know. They felt that they seemed to have poked a hole in the sky. If the dragon clan really revived and those legendary dragons appeared on the ground, it wouldn't be a good thing for humans. After all, the dragon clan was the leader of the 10,000 races. Although they were called divine beasts, there was still a world of difference between them and the human race. These remote antiquity families and sacred ground sects all had very long inheritances. Naturally, they knew what happened in ancient times and even more ancient times. At that time, the human race was not the ruler of the world, but one of the 10,000 ancient races. At that time, the 10,000 ancient races were extremely powerful, and the dragon clan was the most dazzling among them. Chapter 2761. They ruled the world and dominated the world. Back then, the human race was living in the cracks. Later on, the 10,000 ancient races disappeared one after another. On the human side, geniuses emerged in large numbers, and there were even a few emperors who swept through the ages. That was how the human race grew from weak to quickly. Finally, after countless generations of accumulation, they became the current overlords of the true spirit world. However, although they were the overlords, these sacred lords knew that the human race did not control the entire true spirit world. They only controlled a part of it. There were also some forbidden lands and endless darkness that they did not explore at all. The demon race lived in the vast mountains. They were not weaker than the human race, but they were hibernating. The vast sea had terrifying sea demons and sea beasts. The human race did not dare to rashly step into it and could only use teleportation formations to teleport. It could be said that the human race had reached a balance at its peak. However, what if the dragon race revived and reappeared on the earth? Who knew if they would lead the other demon races to compete with the human race and seize the entire world? What should they do? Should they continue? The sacred lords and sect masters frowned, their eyes flickering. To be honest, they knew that this matter was very dangerous, but they were unwilling to go back like this. So what if the dragon race was hibernating? They wanted to see with their own eyes what the legendary dragon race looked like. Of course, the surviving disciples shook their heads crazily. Sect Master, hurry up and seal the entrance with a peerless formation. Don't let anyone in, and don't let the dragon race out. They were truly afraid. A formation diagram could mercilessly crush them, let alone the real dragon race. However, the sacred lords and elders frowned and shut their mouths, waiting obediently. They were all experts, much stronger than the young disciples, so their thoughts were deeper. The dragon race was hibernating. In that case, this was their nest, and there must be endless treasures inside. Indeed, if they could obtain one or two, it would be of great benefit to them. Many sacred lords and sect masters had fiery gazes. However, some of them had grave expressions. They knew that this matter was not a joke. If they really provoked the hibernating dragons and awakened them, then things would be dangerous. Therefore, for a time, these sacred leaders and sect masters were in a deadlock as they discussed animatedly. However, at this moment, Sacred Lord Myriad Thunder frowned. What was that smell? It smelled so good. Everyone else also began to probe. That's right, it smells good. Who's barbecuing? Stupid. This is not the smell of barbecued meat. This is the smell of spirit medicine. Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon were also very surprised. They really did smell the scent of spiritual herbs. Sure enough, there were many treasures in the nest of 10,000 dragons. It seemed like a stalk of spiritual medicine was about to mature. The sacred leaders and patriarchs laughed. They saw this as an opportunity. Let's go and take a look first. Perhaps the spiritual herbs are still far away from those dragons. Many sacred leaders and sect masters soared into the sky, and the elders followed suit. When Shi Wangmu, the Yi clan's clan head, Li Xuanxian, and the others saw this scene, they sighed. Let's go and take a look as well. To be honest, they were also a little tempted. As the fragrance flew, Lin Xian felt that the fragrance was getting stronger and stronger. The Crimson Dragon was surprised. The other disciples exclaimed one after another, "Oh heavens, what kind of elixir is this? I only need to take a breath to recover from my injuries." They were too shocked. In the previous battle, many of them were seriously injured, and it would probably take a few years for them to recover. But now, a single breath of the fragrance allowed them to recover completely. The effects of this elixir were too heaven-defying. Perhaps even a sacred elixir wasn't this terrifying. These people guessed one after another. Could it be a legendary immortal elixir? These disciples were shocked, but the sacred leaders and patriarchs were even more tempted. This was definitely a stalk of divine medicine. They had to get their hands on it so that this trip would not be in vain. In fact, those living fossils were even more excited as if they had been injected with chicken blood. They didn't have much lifespan left. If they could obtain a few stalks of spiritual herbs in the nest of 10,000 dragons, they might be able to extend their lives. The temptation of being alive was too great for these people. For a moment, everyone sped up. The surrounding aura of the Tao of Dragons became denser and denser, turning into dragon shadows that moved freely in the sky. And that fragrance was even more tempting. In fact, everyone felt that their spiritual power was beginning to increase. Gradually, a mountain range appeared in front of them, as if 10,000 dragons were lying down. On the mountain range, there were pitch-black black holes one after another. It was extremely terrifying. Seeing these black holes, Lin Xian and the other young geniuses trembled. They recalled the terrifying sinkhole. Therefore, they hurriedly reminded them. Lin Xian even reminded Li Xuanxian, the head guardian, and the others to be careful. Li Xuanxian, the head guardian, and the others had solemn expressions. The Yi family patriarch, the Queen Mother of the West, and the others were also cautious. They stopped in front of the black holes one after another, bewildered. What a terrifying aura! I actually feel a chill down my spine. The elders of the sacred lands frowned. Something was about to float out. Someone shouted. Sure enough, countless auras of the Tao of Dragons surged in those black holes like swimming dragons. When those black holes bulged out, they brought out a few things. They were divine crystals. 2 meters, 3 meters, and 5 meters of divine crystals. Inside those divine crystals, there were figures sealed in ice. Not good. It's the powerhouses of the nest of 10,000 dragons, the young disciples exclaimed. The sacred lords also frowned. Their eyes flickered as they stared at the people inside the divine crystals. Were these the powerhouses sealed in the nest of 10,000 dragons? They actually used divine crystals to seal them. How extravagant! These people stared at the largest divine crystal with envious faces. However, after the reminder of the disciples, they wouldn't make a move easily. After all, these powerhouses had been passed down from ancient times. The fact that they could survive after being sealed represented their strength and identity. If such a person were to revive, he would definitely be incomparably terrifying. Moreover, there wasn't just one cave. There were probably many such existences in each cave. If they really fought, they wouldn't be able to gain an advantage. However, they heaved a sigh of relief because they discovered that these sealed powerhouses didn't come out because of them. It was because these auras of the Tao of Dragons were entering and exiting that they were fluctuating. Sure enough, as more auras of the Tao of Dragons entered, the divine crystals of these sealed powerhouses once again entered the black holes. From time to time, divine crystals would emerge from those black holes. When a divine crystal appeared in the top black hole, the sacred lords and sect masters all had goosebumps. Those young disciples couldn't even breathe. Lin Xian's pupils constricted. The Crimson Dragon was shocked and hurriedly said, "Kid, this is an extremely terrifying existence." Chapter 2762. That's right. Even without him saying it, everyone else felt it. This divine crystal was about 10 meters tall, and there was a man sealed inside. This man was wearing a purple robe like an emperor. Although he had a human form, it was obvious that he was different from humans. He had claws, scales, and a tail. This was a human-shaped Tyrannosaurus. Moreover, the aura on his body was too terrifying. Even though he was sealed, he could still emit such a monstrous aura that made the sacred leader and sect leader feel as if they were facing a great enemy. Everyone, be careful. Don't alarm him. In the Yi family, the Queen Mother and the others quickly spoke. The others nodded frantically. They stood there motionless, not even daring to breathe loudly. They only heaved a sigh of relief when the tall divine crystal re-entered the black hole. How terrifying! Was this a dragon? They were extremely shocked. They thought that dragons were like the legends, but they didn't expect them to be in human form. It was very normal. When a beast reached a certain level of strength, it could transform into a human, let alone a dragon. Then, the crowd witnessed another scene. One divine crystal after another appeared from the black hole and drilled into it. The Crimson Dragon frowned. No, it wasn't just the dragon race. There were other races too. Damn it, how many things were there in the myriad dragon suppression? What did you discover? Lin Xian asked. Other than the dragon race, I also discovered some other races. They are also very powerful. These races belong to the 10,000 ancient races, but they have other titles. What titles? Lin Xian was puzzled. The Crimson Dragon took a deep breath. The primordial royal race. That was an extremely terrifying race among the 10,000 ancient races. Let's put it this way. The war race and the celestial race were royal races among the 10,000 ancient races back then. Lin Xian was also shocked when he heard this. He knew how powerful the war race and the celestial race were. Not to mention the older generation, even the younger generation was very terrifying. According to the Crimson Dragon's description, there were many royal races among the 10,000 ancient races. If a batch of them were resurrected, they would be unimaginably terrifying existences. The Crimson Dragon wasn't the only one who knew this ancient secret. The Queen Mother, the Yi family, the Gu family, and other long-established families naturally knew about it. Therefore, they were extra careful. Let's take a detour to avoid alerting them. The head of the Yi family said in a deep voice. Everyone prepared to move. However, at that moment, that alluring fragrance was emitted again. Furthermore, it was so strong that it made everyone feel as if it was right beside them. The sacred lords stopped again and scanned their surroundings. Over there. Finally, someone discovered it. At the foot of the mountain ahead, there was a plant that was surrounded by countless auras of the Tao of Dragons. Previously, the aura of the Tao of Dragon was too dense, so they didn't notice it at all. Now that the aura of the Tao of Dragon flowed, the plant finally appeared. As the aura of the Dragon Island on the plant got lesser and lesser, the fragrance got stronger and stronger. Could it be that this was a type of saint medicine? Many elders began to tremble in excitement. There was nothing they could do about it. This had already exceeded their understanding. Perhaps only a peerless sacred medicine could be so terrifying. However, the Yi family's patriarch, the Gu family's patriarch, and the others all shook their heads. No, it wasn't a panacea. Their clans also had sacred medicines, but even sacred medicines did not possess such power. It was too shocking. It was hard for them to imagine. Could it be the immortal divine medicine? The Crimson Dragon screamed. He thought of a possibility. When the others heard this, they were all stunned. What? Immortal divine medicine? The legendary immortal divine medicine that only great emperors possessed? Now that you mention it, it's really possible. The nest of 10,000 dragons had existed for tens of thousands of years, and no one had entered it. It could be said to be quite safe. More importantly, the dragon chi inside was simply too terrifying. It was definitely possible to use the dragon chi to cultivate an immortal divine medicine after countless years. When the sacred lords and sect masters analyzed, their eyes lit up. Heavens, only great emperors were qualified to possess the immortal divine medicine, and they had actually encountered it. If they could obtain it, these people didn't dare to imagine. Even if they didn't consume it, their sacred land families definitely had extremely terrifying foundations and living fossil elders. Those people were very powerful and could be said to be heaven-defying. However, their lifespans had already dried up, and they wouldn't live for many years. It was also sealed with divine crystals. It would only appear when the family and the sacred land were facing a life-and-death crisis. If they had a real immortal divine medicine, it would be equivalent to giving those living fossil elders a second life. It could instantly bring those dying old men back to life and even extend their lifespan by thousands of years. To them, this was definitely a fatal temptation. Therefore, they had to obtain this immortal divine medicine. Although they said that, if they really wanted to make a move, these sacred lords and sect masters were in a difficult position. Because the immortal divine medicine was at the foot of the mountain, too close to those black holes. If they alarmed the experts sleeping in the nest of 10,000 dragons in the black holes, they would be in danger. Therefore, how to obtain the immortal divine medicine was still a problem. Buzz, the people from the Dao-Yi sacred land were the first to move. The Dao-Yi sacred lord raised his hands high, forming a great Dao treasure bottle. This was the peerless divine ability of the Dao-Yi sacred land. They were born with the Dao, and the great Dao treasure bottle they cultivated was even more terrifying. As expected, the great Dao treasure bottle in the sky released tens of thousands of auras, each of which was shocking. Countless auras rotated, forming a force that enveloped the front, wanting to take away the immortal divine medicine. Damn it, not good. When the powerhouses of the other sacred lands saw this scene, they exclaimed in surprise. They did not expect the Dao-Yi sacred land to act so quickly. Lin Xian also frowned as he nervously watched the scene unfold before him. Golden runes flickered in his eyes as he stared ahead, breaking through the layers of curtains. He saw the appearance of the immortal divine medicine clearly. This immortal divine medicine was too magical. It was only the size of a palm, but it looked like a real dragon. If the sacred lords and sect masters had not said that this was a divine medicine, Lin Xian would have thought that it was a dragon. In front of them, the power of the great Dao treasure bottle was blocked by the countless auras of the Dao of Dragons. It could not reach the immortal divine medicine at all. This made the other sacred lands heave a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the people of the Dao-Yi sacred land did not succeed. However, this shocked them even more. This immortal divine medicine was even more terrifying than they had imagined. Even a powerful divine ability like the great Dao treasure bottle could not do anything to it. It seemed that they would have to put in a lot of effort to obtain the immortal divine medicine. Next, the sacred lords, sect masters, and supreme elders began to try and use their respective divine abilities. Some of them even used their sacred weapons. However, they still could not obtain it. However, the use of their sacred weapons still affected the immortal divine medicine. This was not a divine medicine. It flew up like a dragon and danced in the sky as if it wanted to escape. Chapter 2763. Oh no, it's going to run. Catch it. Don't let it run away. Exclamations could be heard one after another. These people were extremely excited. At the same time, they were wild with joy. If the immortal divine herb left this giant mountain, then they could show off their skills. After all, in front of these slumbering ancient royal family members, they didn't dare to make too many moves. The Yi family, Gu family, Jade Pool, and the others all used their strength and divine abilities, but they didn't succeed. They weren't discouraged. This was normal. The immortal divine herb was a spiritual herb exclusive to great emperors. It would be abnormal if it was so easy to be collected by them. On the immortal palace's side, Li Xuanxian, the great guardian, and the others also used their methods, but they also couldn't collect it. However, their thoughts weren't here, because they felt that with their strength, it would be difficult to collect this kind of thing. Therefore, they still thought of a way to inform the old palace master. The old palace master, Xia Jiuyo, was here. With his strength, he could definitely collect it. If the old palace master could collect it, then their immortal palace wouldn't have to fear any sacred ground or sect in the future. They wouldn't even have to fear the ancient families. However, what shocked them was that the nest of 10,000 dragons was too strange. Their divine abilities and techniques were actually unable to send out any information. Therefore, for a moment, Li Xuanhuan, the great guardian, and the others all frowned. Lin Xian's eyes flickered as he continued to watch the battle. The Crimson Dragon, on the other hand, was red-eyed. He said, "Kid, aren't you tempted? Why don't we make a move too?" Lin Xian rolled his eyes. "Stop fooling around. Even the sacred leader and sect master can't catch it. How can the two of us? Right?" Lin Xian looked at the snow-white little monkey on his shoulder. The snow-white little monkey grimaced and scratched his ears and cheeks. He had already tried countless times and used the treasure bowl on his head. However, he couldn't steal the immortal divine herb at all. However, the fragrance of the immortal divine herb made him salivate. Therefore, the little guy jumped around anxiously. Great Void Technique. A grand elder of the Gu family suddenly made a move and appeared at the foot of the mountain. He grabbed the immortal divine herb with one hand. The immortal divine herb turned into a dragon and flew up quickly, narrowly dodging this attack. Then, it flew upward. Seeing this, the supreme elder of the Gu clan sighed. He executed the great void art and quickly returned to the Gu clan. There was nothing he could do about it. Now that his attack had failed, he didn't dare to stay any longer. That was because as soon as he arrived at the foot of the mountain, he felt his blood run cold. It was as if there was a terrifying power that wanted to tear him apart. He had to leave as soon as possible. The figure of the Gu clan's supreme elder flickered, and he retreated into the distance. Everyone cried out in surprise again. The warriors of the Gu clan sighed. They had almost caught the immortal divine herb. What a pity. Not long after, they exclaimed again. Lin Xian's pupils shrank. So fast. Who was it this time? Was it the Gu family? No, the Gu family shouldn't have been able to see this speed. It was just too shocking. The other sacred leaders and sect masters also exclaimed. Sacred leader Myriad Thunder. That's right. The one who attacked was Sacred Lord Myriad Thunder. He had a pair of lightning wings on his back, which looked like the wings of a thunder god. There were frightening Tao patterns on them. As he moved, his speed was extremely fast. Thunder god's wings. That was a true sacred artifact. With it, one's speed would reach an unparalleled level. The surrounding sacred leaders and sacred leaders were envious as they explained the origin of that pair of wings. Lin Xian and the others were shocked when they heard it. The thunder god's wings was a sacred artifact. No wonder it was so fast. The other saints and geniuses didn't see it clearly at all. Only Lin Xian, who activated his heavenly secret divine eyes, saw a trace of light. However, he couldn't see the specific figure. With the Thunder God's wings, Sacred Lord Myriad Thunder's speed was extremely fast. In an instant, he arrived in front of the immortal divine herb. In the next moment, he waved his hand and a lightning net appeared, enveloping the immortal divine herb in all directions. "Haha, it's mine!" Sacred Lord Myriad Thunder shouted excitedly. His eyes were red. The surrounding people were also shocked. Could it be that the immortal divine herb was really going to be obtained by Sacred Lord Myriad Thunder? Could it be that the Sacred Lord Myriad Thunder wanted to defy the heavens? In the sky, the lightning net was getting smaller and smaller. It was about to envelop the immortal divine herb. However, at that moment, the immortal divine herb's body swayed. Like a true dragon, it broke through the lightning net and flew out again. So powerful. The immortal divine herb's strength was probably not weak. It could actually break through Sacred Lord Myriad Thunder's attack. The sacred leaders in the distance exclaimed. They couldn't sit still anymore. They had to hurry up and attack. They couldn't let Sacred Lord Myriad Thunder take it away. The Gu family's powerhouses were preparing to use the Great Void technique again to seize it by force. Sacred Lord Myriad Thunder sneered. "You can't escape. My speed is unparalleled." He rushed out and arrived in front of the immortal divine herb in an instant. This time, he took out an even more terrifying treasure. However, before he could do anything, he screamed in the next moment. That was because a terrifying force surged out and tried to tear him apart. Not only him, but everyone behind him also felt the force. It was an extremely terrifying pressure that could devour heaven and earth. It was as if it wanted to destroy everything. Not to mention Lin Xian, Yi Wudao, and the others, even the Yi family's patriarch, the Queen Mother of the West, Li Xuanxian, and the others felt as if they were facing a great enemy. They all stiffened in midair. Danger, a peerless danger. Sacred Lord Myriad Thunder's face turned green. Is this the killing intent of the archaic royal family? It's too terrifying. Is the archaic royal family going to revive? He didn't dare to agree. He flapped his lightning god's wings and turned to flee. However, just as he turned around, a force pierced through him and tore his body apart. With a boom, a bloody mist exploded. Sacred Lord Myriad Thunder's body was torn apart, and his blood dyed the sky red. This scene caused everyone's scalps to go numb. Lin Xian, Yi Wudao, and the others were even more shocked. Sacred Lord Myriad Thunder was killed. A sacred lord didn't even have the time to scream before he was killed. What kind of power was this? Was it the power of a sage? They didn't dare to imagine. A sacred lord was such a terrifying existence. But now, in front of this invisible killing intent, he was as weak as an ant. Is the archaic royal family really that terrifying? At this moment, everyone was even more certain of their thoughts. They absolutely couldn't allow the archaic royal family to revive. Otherwise, the human race would be plunged into misery and suffering. Sacred Lord Myriad Thunder's martial artists screamed crazily. The elders were also shocked. A miserable scream rang out. In the bloody mist that filled the sky, a soul directly merged with the lightning god's wings. The shield quickly cut through the void and flew to an extremely far place. Buzz then, the soul rushed out of the lightning god's wings and reformed its body. Sacred Lord Myriad Thunder appeared in front of everyone once again. He didn't die? Those from the Myriad Thunder Sacred Lord heaved a sigh of relief. The others were also shocked. The Crimson Dragon said from the side, "It should be the power of a sage's weapon. If it wasn't for a sage's weapon, that guy would have died." Chapter 2764. Indeed, the Sacred Lord of 10,000 Thunder's face was full of fear. If it weren't for the lightning god's wings, he would have died just now. That wisp of killing intent was too terrifying. Perhaps only a sage's treasure artifact could resist it. That was just a wisp of killing intent. If the other party was truly resurrected, how terrifying would it be? No one dared to imagine. At this moment, the sacred lords and sect masters all looked at the top. They remembered the tall purple powerhouse they saw earlier. It was him. It must be him. That purple powerhouse was at least at the Sage Realm. Don't provoke him. Everyone trembled. Inside the Black Mountain was a Sage Realm primordial royal family member who was sleeping. They couldn't resist at all. They didn't dare to think about the immortal divine herb anymore, because the immortal divine herb had already flown near the cave entrance. Forget it. Don't attack anymore. We can't disturb the sleeping sage. The Yi family patriarch, the Queen Mother of the West, and the others shook their heads. The other sacred lords also sighed. That was indeed the case. Judging from the aura just now, it was too terrifying. This shouldn't be the end. Let's look around. Everyone looked at the immortal divine herb reluctantly. They swore that they would bring back an even more powerful existence when they returned, to fight for it. The immortal divine herb was even more terrifying and precious than the Yuhua immortal robe. Presumably, these holy lands would definitely not let this matter rest. Perhaps they would ask their own sages to help. However, that was a matter for when they got out. Now, they had to continue searching. The group of people continued to walk forward. They went around the Black Mountain, and Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon followed closely behind. This time, they were even more careful, because no one knew what kind of danger was waiting for them. Fortunately, the danger seemed to have disappeared along the way. They didn't encounter any array formations, which made everyone feel incredulous. The sacred lords and sect masters frowned. There was no road ahead. These people stopped. The front was indeed blocked. What's going on? Are we at the end? Some of the elders of the sacred lands were puzzled. The young disciples were even more puzzled. The sacred lords frowned. No, it's not the end. The road is blocked. It seemed to be a door, blocking our way. A door? Heavens, it can't be. This place is so big. These young martial artists were extremely surprised. Lin Xian's eyes flickered as he activated his heavenly secret divine eyes. Golden rays of light appeared as he scanned his surroundings. He realized that his surroundings had been cut off. If this was a door, it would probably be millions of miles away. The heavenly tree. This was the heavenly tree. One of the Yi family's grand elders exclaimed. The others were extremely shocked. The heavenly tree. What was that? This was a variant of the heaven and earth. It was extremely terrifying. Looking at this heavenly tree, it is estimated to be more than 100,000 years old. The black thing you see is actually not the door, but its trunk. What? How could a tree trunk be so thick? He couldn't see the end of it. Everyone was extremely shocked. Was this the heavenly tree? But why was this heavenly tree growing here? How could they pass through? It was very difficult to pass through. This sky-reaching god tree was probably planted here by the experts of the nest of 10,000 dragons to prevent others from entering. The great elder of the Yi clan sighed, and the others started to discuss. Among them, Sacred Lord 10,000 Thunder snorted coldly. Isn't it just a heavenly tree? With so many sacred lords joining forces, I don't believe that we can't break through it. That's right, this time. We brought a lot of sacred weapons. Everyone, let's attack together. The Sacred Lord of the Five Elements Palace also spoke. Many people's eyes were burning. Indeed, they were eager to know what was on the other side of the heavenly tree. Buzz, Sacred Lord 10,000 Thunder, was the first to attack. Lightning surrounded his body, bringing about a powerful storm. At this moment, he was like the god of thunder. A pair of thunder wings spread out behind his back, forming two thunderballs that blasted forward. This pair of thunder wings was a terrifying sacred weapon. The attack it released carried a monstrous sacred might as it charged forward. Boom, boom. Earth-shattering sounds rang out as lightning surged in the sky. It was so loud that everyone's ears were muddled. They couldn't hear anything else at all. Lin Xian used his heavenly secret divine eyes to see through the sea of lightning and discovered that the heavenly tree wasn't damaged at all. It was just that the reef above was black. Heavens, what kind of tree is this? It's too hard. Even sacred weapons can't break through it. Kid, you don't understand. The heavenly tree is definitely one of the most terrifying sacred trees in the world. Moreover, this tree has been growing for at least 100,000 years. Think about it. The Dharch only lived for 10,000 to 20,000 years. How terrifying would a sacred technique be after 100,000 years? Indeed, Lin Xian nodded. The martial artists of the Immortal Palace and the other sacred grounds all swallowed their saliva. Let me help you. The five elements sacred lord also walked out. He opened his mouth and spat out a five elements pearl. This was also a sacred weapon. At this moment, he released all the flames within the five elements pearl. The monstrous flames turned into 8 fire dragons that charged forward. Fire countered wood. Everyone was confident that this time, the heavenly tree would definitely be attacked. However, the trunk of the sacred tree didn't seem to be made of wood. Instead, it seemed to be made of metal that blocked the sea of flames. Damn it, as expected of the heavenly tree. Everyone, let's attack together. The five elements sacred lord's face was gloomy. The other sacred lords, sect leaders, and grand elders all had solemn expressions. They felt that they could try to break through it. After all, there wasn't any danger nearby. You young disciples, step back, step far away. We need to use many sacred weapons. The Yi family's grand elders stood out and said in a deep voice. Lin Xian, Yi Wudao, and the other sacred sons and prodigies all retreated with their martial artists. Boom, boom. In front of them, the sacred leaders and patriarchs executed their martial arts. Wisps of shocking auras burst out from their bodies and soared into the sky. In an instant, the winds and clouds changed. The void in front of them quickly shattered. The heavens and earth trembled as if the world was about to be destroyed. It was too terrifying. Lin Xian and the others retreated once again. They had no choice. With so many sacred lords attacking together and the power of the sacred weapons, it was truly terrifying. It could shatter everything. Light flowed on their bodies as they activated their king domains. Armor appeared and quickly blocked the attacks. However, the weaker ones couldn't block it at all. They spat out large mouthfuls of blood. Retreat. Retreat quickly. It was too terrifying. Lin Xian and the 9 sons' bodies shone brightly, but they also felt a great pressure. This was only the aftermath of the energy. If they were hit head-on, even an invincible king would be instantly killed. Perhaps even a sage wouldn't be able to withstand it. In front of them, an earth-shattering explosion sounded. The sky was filled with energy, and the void shattered. However, what was shocking was that the heavenly tree had withstood it. It was such a terrifying attack, but it wasn't damaged. Damn it, what kind of tree is this? This old tree has definitely become a spirit. This couldn't be a holy tree, right? These people screamed crazily. However, what terrified them was yet to come. Chapter 2765. Unknowingly, dozens of figures appeared around Lin Xian and the others. These figures were wrapped in the aura of the Tao of Dragon, and they let out deep roars. Occasionally, everyone could see the scales that flickered with cold light under the aura of the Tao of Dragon, as well as the terrifying claws and teeth. The creatures of the nest of 10,000 dragons, Lin Xian exclaimed, and the people around him were also terrified. In front, the sacred leaders and sect masters also exclaimed. Damn it, could it be that they were alarmed? Buzz, more than a dozen creatures of the nest of 10,000 dragons quickly moved out, charging towards the young disciples like bolts of lightning. In an instant, blood spurted out and screams sounded. Many people were torn in half, and blood dyed the sky red. Damn it, retreat. The sacred lords roared angrily. The young disciples, sacred princes, and geniuses all quickly attacked. Clang, the 4 elements sacred leader fought against a humanoid creature and was directly blasted back, his entire arm numb. Damn it, they were actually so powerful. The others were also stunned. It was too terrifying. What exactly were these things? Were they beasts or dragons? How could they be so terrifying? Damn it, the sect masters in front shouted coldly. 2 of them brandished their sacred weapons and charged over. Terrifying sacred might overflowed, shattering the sky. Terrifying flames burned fiercely. This attack, it was truly terrifying. Sure enough, many humanoid creatures were sent flying, their bodies exploding and turning into a bloody mist. This scene made these young disciples heave a sigh of relief. However, in the next moment, they screamed. In fact, the sacred leader who attacked also let out a miserable cry, because one of his arms was directly torn apart. In front, a few humanoid creatures also appeared. The aura on their bodies was even more terrifying, like the abyss. As soon as they attacked, they injured a sect master. This scene made the sacred leaders cry out in alarm. Damn it! The creatures in the nest of 10,000 dragons had really awakened. Everyone, retreat. At this moment, they were really panicking, because they discovered that more and more terrifying creatures were appearing around them. How did they appear? These sacred leaders and sect masters didn't know. However, the terror of these creatures was far beyond their imagination. In fact, these humanoid creatures were also holding ancient treasures in their hands to resist their sacred weapons. In an instant, a chaotic battle broke out. On Lin Xian's side, he also received a fierce blow. Foolish humans, you actually dared to trespass into the nest of 10,000 dragons. Go to hell. A cold voice rang out, causing everyone's scalp to go numb. Do it quickly. Lin Xian, Leaf Doudinier, Dustless, and the others all roared in rage. The other saints, Heaven's Chosen, and all the martial artists attacked like crazy. At the same time, they quickly retreated, wanting to leave this area completely. Buzz on Lin Xian's side. A blue ray of light turned into a bolt of lightning and shattered the void, blocking the path of Lin Xian and the others. That azure figure let out a cold voice that sounded like thunder. It was extremely terrifying as it rolled towards Lin Xian. This sound wave was too terrifying. The martial artists around Lin Xian vomited mouthfuls of blood as they retreated. Just a single sound wave was enough to severely injure them. Humph! Lin Xian snorted coldly. His 9-yang divine body bloomed with light as he resisted the terrifying sound wave. Those sound waves hit his body and made a sonorous sound. It was extremely vast and mighty, as if 10,000 thunderbolts had descended. However, Lin Xian was fine. Buzz. Clenching his hand into a fist, he rushed forward. This fist was like a sun that exploded in the void. The resplendent light illuminated the world. A terrifying force burst out from his body. With a bang, the azure figure in front of him was forced back. Damn human, you're courting death. The azure figure was enraged. He let out a long roar and 2 more figures appeared around him. They were also azure in color and incomparably deep, like the sea. The 3 figures were like 3 sharp blades as they charged towards Lin Xian once again. Foolish and lowly humans, today is the day you die. The aura of these 3 figures was too powerful. It was like 3 endless seas, pressing down on those people until they couldn't breathe. So strong, so terrifying. What the hell are these things? The young disciples were stunned. Other than a few top prodigies, the others could only resist with all their might. What do you humans think you are? In front of the ancient royal family, you're just ants. The azure figure let out a sinister laugh. So now, ants, go to hell. 3 streaks of blue sword chi were produced from that light. They descended from the sky, and their sharp aura made people tremble. Ants? Lin Xian sneered. The light of the 9-yang divine body became more and more tyrannical. His fist had completely transformed into a golden crow as he charged forward. Boom! The light cracked, and the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. The 3 blue heavenly swords were directly shattered. Not only that, the 3 azure figures were also forced back. 2 of them directly exploded, and blue blood splattered all over the sky. I'm an ant? Then what are you guys, who can't even block a punch from me? You're worse than ants. Lin Xian's voice was sonorous as he looked ahead disdainfully. At this moment, he was like a sun war god that people looked up to. Damn it! How could he be so strong? The azure figures were extremely shocked. The surrounding archaic creatures were also stunned. What was going on? How could there be such a strong physique in the human race? Whoosh! Whoosh! In an instant, many ancient creatures gathered towards Lin Xian. The human race is not something you can insult. At this moment, Yu Wudao also said coldly. Immediately after, his fist turned into an unparalleled radiance, killing 2 humanoid creatures as well. This scene was also shocking. On Wu Chen's side, thousands of rays of Buddhist light flashed. He also killed a few ancient creatures with his flower-pinching finger. Not good. There's a peerless genius in the human race. The expressions of these ancient creatures changed, and their expressions became solemn. They originally thought that with their powerhouses restraining the sacred leaders and sect masters, they could easily kill the younger generation. They didn't expect that there would be such a powerful figure in the younger generation. However, this was not the end of it. What shocked them even more was still to come. After Lin Xian and the other 2, the Daoi Holy Sun, Gu Santong, Wu Hua, Murong Qingqing, Shen Jingqiu, the Crimson Dragon, the Dian Holy Sun. All of the saint prodigies displayed extraordinary strength, surprising the ancient creatures. In an instant, dozens of ancient creatures were completely suppressed. Many of them even bled. Their blood was blue, green, and black. It was very strange. Ancient creatures? Powerhouses from the nest of 10,000 dragons? They were just so. Seeing the wavering light Holy Sun kill 2 ancient creatures in one strike, the cultivators of the wavering light sacred land sneered. Lowly humans, what do you know? Do you really think you can compete with the ancient royal family? Our master has not awakened. Otherwise, one of them would be able to kill all of you. The humanoid creatures snorted. What? Master? These creatures actually called the sleeping dragons their master. Could it be that these ancient life forms were just servants? Heavens! Just some slaves were so heaven-defying and terrifying, they could compete with the top holy sons? They didn't dare to imagine how terrifying the real dragon race, the ancient royal family, would be. Chapter 2766. Lin Xian and the others also had solemn expressions. If what the other party said was true, then the primordial emperor ancestor was truly terrifying. The Crimson Dragon sneered. A group of slaves dare to be arrogant in front of me? Hurry up and scram for Bin Huang. Otherwise, Bin Huang will eat you all. Lowly ants, you're courting death. The ancient creatures roared angrily. They stared at the Crimson Dragon, but soon they cried out in surprise. Their bodies trembled. Dragon, you're actually a dragon. That's right, Bin Huang is a dragon. Why aren't you slaves kneeling on the ground? The Crimson Dragon snorted coldly. The ancient creatures in front trembled. Their expressions changed drastically. No, you're not from the dragon race of the nest of 10,000 dragons. Who are you? Kill them. Kill them. They're plotting something. These people roared angrily. Their bodies emitted tens of thousands of rays of light as they charged out again. The battle erupted. It was extremely intense. However, Lin Xian and the others were very powerful and gradually suppressed these ancient creatures. However, this was the nest of 10,000 dragons after all. It was full of mysteries. These ancient creatures cooperated with each other and actually triggered the array formation here. In an instant, the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. A terrifying aura swept in all directions. The entire world was boiling as a terrifying array formation enveloped the surroundings. This caused Lin Xian and the others to fall into danger once again. Boom! In front, the battle between the sacred leaders and sect leaders was also abnormally terrifying. Many ancient creatures appeared in the surroundings. These ancient creatures were very terrifying. They were not weaker than these sacred leaders and sect leaders. In fact, many of the elders of these sacred lands were killed. Pu, an elder of the 10,000 thunder sacred ground, was surrounded by lightning. He was like a god of thunder. However, a palm stretched out, tore through the lightning that filled the sky, and directly crushed his heart. With a puff, the body of the elder of the 10,000 thunder sacred ground split into pieces. However, that palm retracted, grabbed a heart, and directly put it into his mouth. Then, he began to eat. This scene made everyone's scalps go numb. They looked forward. There was a tall human figure in front of them. It looked like a human, but it had a tail and wings. Its head was like that of a crocodile, which was extremely terrifying. He had already killed 3 elders of the Holy Land. Each time, he had killed them with a single strike. He had crushed their hearts and swallowed them whole. Buzz, the great derivation sacred lord, waved his great derivation sacred sword. The moment he slashed out, the heavens collapsed and the earth cracked. The terrifying creature was sent flying. However, it was useless. More and more archaic creatures appeared in the surroundings, their auras incomparably terrifying. They also activated a terrifying killing array to kill these sacred masters and sect masters. The Queen Mother, Yi family's patriarch, Li Xuanxian, and the others had grave expressions on their faces. They noticed that other than the ancient life forms around them, there were also roars coming from afar. Furthermore, a shocking aura rapidly spread across the place and burst out from it. Not good. I'm afraid that the ancient royal family in the nest of 10,000 dragons is really going to revive. Everyone, retreat quickly. After he returned, he would make further plans. These sacred leaders and sect masters began to retreat. Behind them, there were also many powerful archaic creatures. Some of them were even wielding broken artifacts as they charged over. Boom! In the distance, the heavens and earth shook once more. Countless auras of the Tao of Dragon erupted, and the mountain with countless black holes rumbled. The powerhouses sealed by the divine crystals floated out. They floated in the sky. Although their eyes were still closed, the auras on their bodies were becoming stronger and stronger. In fact, a 10-meter-tall divine crystal also appeared in the sky. It was like an ancient demonic mountain, suppressing these sacred masters and sect masters until they found it difficult to breathe. Not good. It's that ancient king. Everyone was shocked. They had encountered it before. The wisp of aura emitted by the other party had already made them extremely shocked. They didn't expect that the other party would appear again. If such a terrifying powerhouse revived, they would probably be in danger. Whoosh! Whoosh! These people retreated crazily. Hurry up and contact our people. Summon our saints. Many people from the sacred lands and great sects shouted angrily. The Yi family, Gu family, Immortal Palace, Jade Pool, and Alcade also attacked. However, a peerless formation enveloped heaven and earth, isolating the aura. As a result, the teleportation formation couldn't be formed at all, and they couldn't send the news out. Lowly humans, do you still want to call yourselves humans? Today, you will be completely buried here. A cold and heartless voice sounded. The murderous aura of the 9 heavens and 10 earths swept out. Accompanied by the aura of the Tao of Dragon, it formed a scene of destruction. Boom, boom, boom. In front of them, the sky-reaching divine tree also slowly trembled, and its body gradually rose into the air. Obviously, this primordial divine technique wasn't dead, but alive. However, it was too huge. With a slight sway, the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. In the sky, countless lightning bolts descended, dancing in the air as they charged towards the elders. Not good. The sky-reaching divine tree was about to attack. These people went crazy. They discovered that those lightning bolts weren't lightning, but the branches of the sky-reaching divine tree. However, each of them was extremely sharp. They were like divine swords that slashed in all directions. These people could only desperately block them. Boom, boom, boom. The sky-reaching divine tree gradually left the ground, and the paths that it blocked also appeared. However, no one was excited. Originally, they wanted to know what was behind the sky-reaching divine tree, but now they couldn't care less. They fought like crazy. However, some people couldn't help but take a glance and then scream. Dragon! It's a dragon! The Grand Elder screamed. The other sect masters and sacred masters also probed their souls and looked into the distance. In the next moment, their scalps went numb. In the distance, Lin Xian and the others also looked over. Heavens! Lin Xian was shocked. Those people also screamed. It's really a dragon. That's right. Behind the sky-reaching divine tree, there was an even wider area. On that land, there were many figures lying cross-legged. They were like mountains lying there. The small ones were more than 10 meters tall, while the big ones were hundreds of meters tall. There was even one that was more than 10,000 meters tall. They couldn't see the end of it. At first glance, they thought that it was a mountain, but those people were too powerful and their eyes were sharp. They realized that it wasn't a mountain at all. It was a body. Many bodies were lying on the ground like a mountain range. There were cold scales on them that flickered with a metallic light. They emitted a monstrous aura that made one's blood freeze. That was the pressure from the bloodline soul. Only an extremely powerful bloodline could cause such a scene. Everyone knew that those were dragons, the same dragons as in the legends. There were really dragons, and those dragons were all sleeping. Some of them were sealed by divine crystals, while others were sealed by dragon veins. In short, all the dragons were sleeping. However, the aura that they emitted was like an ancient abyss that could crush people. There were more in the distance. The crimson dragon pointed into the distance and screamed. He was a dragon himself, so he was more familiar with those things. Everyone hurriedly fought while using their souls to probe. The sacred masters and sect masters did the same. In the next moment, they were even more shocked. The reason for that was because they discovered that there were many god crystals floating around those enormous dragons, and even further away. Were those also dragons? Or were they servants of the dragons? They didn't know. Chapter 2767. The Crimson Dragon said, "A dragon, an even more terrifying dragon." Everyone sensed it carefully and found that it was indeed so. These human-shaped dragons were even more terrifying. Some of them even had dragon horns on their heads, some had dragon scales on their bodies, and some had dragon tails and dragon wings. They were extremely terrifying. Among them, the living fossils of the Tuoba family, Nangong family, and Ouyang family, the three great spirit seeker families, also quickly used their spirit-seeking techniques. They probed into the distance. They wanted to see clearly what was in the depths of the nest of 10,000 dragons. Their gazes became incomparably deep. Mysterious runes flickered, carrying a terrifying light that pierced through everything. These were three living fossil elders. They had already lived for more than 3,000 years. Their spirit-seeking technique was even more terrifying. This time, the three great spirit seeker families were led by them. Therefore, at this moment, they used their terrifying spirit-seeking technique, causing everyone's hearts to tremble. The entire world also underwent a strange change. In front of them, countless auras of the Tao of Dragons surged and gradually spread out. Everyone seemed to be able to see the scene in the distance clearly. However, the good times didn't last long. Not long after, the three living fossil-level spirit seeker masters screamed in pain. They kept rolling and covering their faces with their hands. Blood flowed down their fingers. Elders, the people of the three great spirit seeker families, screamed crazily. What was going on? Why was their elder Zhang injured? The living fossil elders of the three spirit seeker families screamed in pain. My eyes! Damn it, my eyes! They screamed crazily. Their eyes were bleeding, and they were directly blinded. The road ahead was once again covered by the aura. It was thick and heavy, and everyone couldn't see clearly again. This made everyone even more puzzled. What exactly did these living fossils see? Even their eyes were blinded. Could it be that they saw something they shouldn't have seen? Everyone's bodies trembled. What exactly was in the depths of the nest of 10,000 dragons? Elders, what did you see? The people of the three great spirit seeker families also quickly asked. However, the three living fossil elders shook their heads crazily. They didn't dare to say it. They would be blinded with just a glance. If they said it, who knew if the terrifying array formation of the nest of 10,000 dragons would directly kill them? However, if they didn't say it, these people became even more curious. This was especially true for the sacred leader and the sect master. They wanted to know more. The Taishian Saint Master was surrounded by 108 stars, as if he was the master of the starry sky. His eyes were like two universes. The light of the stars pierced through and shattered the aura of the Tao of Dragons in the sky, opening up a path. The Yin-Yang sect leader had the Yin-Yang mirror above his head. Black and white auras flowed around his body. It was quite strange and terrifying. At this moment, he also activated the Yin-Yang mirror and shot out a beam of Yin-Yang light that shot forward. The head of the Gu clan appeared and disappeared unpredictably like a ghost. He directly used the void technique, causing the void in front of him to split open and devour the endless aura of the Tao of Dragons. The Yi clan's clan head, the Queen Mother of the West, and the other sacred leaders and sect masters also attacked together. Li Xuanxian's body emitted a sharp aura. A flying knife appeared in his hand. The flying knife was 2 fingers wide, and it flashed with an endless cold light. Buzz as the saber flew out. The sky fell, and the earth cracked. Ghosts wailed and wolves howled. It pierced through the void. The terrifying aura caused the faces of the sacred leaders and sect masters to change. Those elders were also trembling. Some of them screamed, "Xiao Li's flying dagger." It was actually him. Damn it. He actually joined the immortal palace. What? Are you talking about that amazing Xiao Li's flying dagger who swept through the 9 heavens and 10 lands with a wave of flying daggers? Some of the sacred leaders' faces changed. They didn't recognize him before, and he didn't use the flying dagger. Now that the flying dagger was out, it shocked the heavens and shocked the gods. It made them immediately think of that terrifying person back then. It was him. It was definitely him. They didn't expect him to appear again after being silent for 800 years. Those elders and sacred leaders cried out in surprise. Behind them, Lin Xian and the others were also shocked. When the flying dagger appeared, these sacred leaders and prodigies felt their hair stand on end. Many of them directly knelt on the ground. They felt that this blade light would be able to annihilate them completely. Lin Xian's body also trembled. The great dragon sword soul in his body roared and blocked this shocking saber light. It was too terrifying. This was the most terrifying saber light he had ever seen. This Li Xuanxian was actually so terrifying. He hadn't seen him fight before, but now it seemed that his strength was definitely not weaker than those sacred leaders and sect masters. Moreover, when he attacked, the sacred leaders and sect masters looked as if they had seen a ghost. Could it be that Li Xuanxian had an even more shocking identity? That should be it. Yi Wudao, Dustless, Gu Santong, and the others also had serious expressions. The Crimson Dragon was even more surprised. This immortal palace was indeed mysterious and strange. Who knew what kind of peerless figure would appear in the future? With so many sacred leaders and sect masters attacking together, they broke through the Tao of Dragon aura in front of them. Everyone once again saw the scene in front of them clearly. In the next moment, they cried out in surprise, their hearts beating wildly. Even the Crimson Dragon was shocked. He screamed and felt that the blood in his body was about to freeze. Lin Xian, Yi Wudao, and the young disciples were even more frightened. The sacred leaders, sect masters, and grand elders also felt their scalps go numb. The reason for that was because they saw an altar in the distance. It was a 5-colored altar. The altar was very ancient and emitted a desolate aura. It had existed for countless years. On the altar, there was an egg, a golden egg. It was as big as a wash basin, and there were countless mysterious Tao patterns on it. They were densely packed and dazzling. The egg was golden. On the mysterious altar in the depths of the nest of 10,000 dragons, there was actually an egg. What kind of egg was this? Could it be a dragon egg? No one knew. However, this scene infuriated the ancient creatures in the surroundings. They roared and pounced crazily, causing the sacred leaders and sect masters to have no chance to observe. The young prodigies on Lin Xian's side were also fiercely attacked. In an instant, the endless Tao of Dragon aura in front of them surged and once again enveloped the mysterious golden dragon egg. Everything could no longer be seen. As for Lin Xian and the other sect masters, they were all in danger. Many young disciples were killed, and even a few saints had their bodies pierced through. The battle in the distance was even more tragic. Many grand elders of the sacred grounds and sects were hacked apart. Their bodies were directly swallowed alive. What made them even more desperate was that in the sky, the 10-meter-tall divine crystal and the purple primordial king suddenly erupted with a terrifying wave of air. It surged downward and turned into a thick purple aura that covered the sky and the earth. In an instant, many sacred leaders and sect masters vomited blood. Not good, quickly block it. These sacred leaders and sect masters all activated their sacred weapons to block the terrifying purple light. At the same time, countless ancient creatures appeared in the surroundings. They had a life-and-death battle with these sacred leaders. Chapter 2768. In an instant, Li Xuanxian, the patriarch of the Yi family, the patriarch of the Gu family, and the Queen Mother of the West were all under intense attacks. These primordial creatures were too powerful. They could even mobilize the surrounding Tao of dragon aura and peerless killing formations at will. The sacred lord of 10,000 thunder used his lightning god's wings and flew quickly in the sky. 2 lightning god's wings turned into lightning heavenly blades that slashed in all directions. Wherever they passed, for primordial creatures were cut in half, and blood splattered everywhere. The Yin-Yang sect leader held the Yin-Yang mirror in his hand and bombarded the surrounding primordial creatures. A jade lake appeared beside the Queen Mother of the West. A drop of jade lake holy water directly pierced through those terrifying creatures. It turned them into nothingness. The patriarch of the Yi family was like a golden god of war. He opened and closed his palms, creating a bloody path. The patriarch of the Gu family appeared and disappeared unpredictably. Every time he appeared, he could easily kill primordial creatures. Li Xuanxian was even more terrifying. The flying knives in his hand never missed. Every time, he would kill with a single strike. There was even a time when he directly killed 7 primordial creatures with a single strike. It was truly terrifying. The surrounding sacred lords, royal lords, and Buddhist abbot all attacked one after another. However, the enemies were even more terrifying. Among these primordial creatures, there were a few that were extremely terrifying. One of them was surrounded by flames. The flame wings on its back spread out and directly burned several elders of the 5 elements palace to ashes. The other one had a long humanoid figure. It had a head of incomparably green hair and turned into a poisonous python. He held a green sword in his hand. With a wave of his hand, he killed several elders of the Dian sacred land and the Tai dynasty. Buzz. The sky-reaching tree was even more terrifying. Its branches hung down and directly enveloped the elders of the Yi family, the Gu family, the Dao sacred land, and the Jade Lake. In an instant, they were hung up. Their heads were chopped off. In an instant, blood spurted out and miserable screams rang out. These were all peerless experts. Their blood turned into a sea of blood in the air, forming a hell of azura. The monstrous killing intent was astonishing, making one's scalp tingle. Terrifying. It was really too terrifying. This was an intense battle. Perhaps no one in the outside world would have thought that the sacred lord, who usually dominated a region and was respected by the world, would be injured. Here, he was seriously injured and even killed. On Lin Xian's side, he was facing an unprecedented crisis. Only the top saints could resist it with the treasures in their hands. Those young disciples could not resist at all. Even the weaker saints and prodigies were mercilessly killed. And this was just some servants dealing with them. If it was a true far ancient royal, it would be even more dangerous. As expected, an even more terrifying ancient life form roared and charged toward Lin Xian. The faces of Lin Xian, Leaf Daodinier, and the others instantly flickered. Not good, everyone, join hands. The crimson dragon screeched and swung its tail, exuding a mighty dragon aura that intimidated the ancient creature. This primordial creature was extremely terrifying. The moment it appeared, the aura it exuded made the Shengzis feel as if they were facing a formidable foe. Everyone joined forces and attacked. However, it was shattered by a single slap from the primordial creature. The ground cracked open, and an endless aura of the Tao of Dragon filled the air. Those people all retreated. Lin Xian and Leaf Daodinier had strong physiques. Morong Qingqing, Shinjingqiu, and the others also had bloodline power revolving around them. They only retreated. However, the other prodigies did not have strong physiques or terrifying bloodlines. Some of their bodies split open, and their blood dyed the ground red. With just a single strike, they had received such heavy injuries. This caused everyone to be extremely shocked. Roar. The ancient creature let out another roar and charged over again. After 2 moves, these people were even more severely injured. Some saints and saintesses were even killed. Several princes of the Ninely dynasty were also killed. The Western desert monks also spat out mouthfuls of blood. Many of them had their heads smashed. Among them, Wu Qin was the strongest. Wu Hua was also extremely mysterious. He pointed one hand to the sky and the other to the ground, exuding terrifying bloodline power. There was also one who had a Zhang 6 golden body. His entire body shone with light like a Buddha. He was Wu Qin's junior brother and was also a terrifying prodigy. He cultivated the Zhang 6 golden body, which was a supreme physique. The southern mountain prodigies were the same. For some reason, Yin Nantian did not come to the southern mountains Yin family. However, the Yin family's prodigies were also extremely powerful. In the northern plains, the demon kings of the Demon King Palace were roaring. At the same time, they were terrified. It was too terrifying. The bloodline power of the ancient life form was causing them great trouble. Hua Tiandu's face was gloomy. The bloodline power in his body shone brightly. However, he was also injured. The saints and prodigies were all injured. If the ancient life form continued to attack, they would be killed sooner or later. Qingqing, Qiu'er, are you all right? Lin Xian came to Xin Jingqiu and Murong Qingqing and asked in a deep voice. The two of them shook their heads. However, their faces were pale. Ruzalong, do you have any ideas? Lin Xian asked. If not, he would really have to go all out. He would summon the great dragon sword soul or enter the black earth directly. Wait, I'll try. The crimson dragon stepped forward. He did not attack. Instead, he spoke a strange language. This scene puzzled Lin Xian and the others. They did not understand what it meant. In front, the tyrannical ancient creature was stunned. It stopped and looked at the dark red divine dragon in bewilderment. It spoke the ancient language as well. They were communicating. Lin Xian took a deep breath. Yi Wudao, Gu Santong, and the others also had serious expressions. The great Xia Prince, the Alcade Sage, and the other prodigies were also waiting silently. The Crimson Dragon spoke the dragon language. The dragon language was a very noble language among the immemorial royal family. Apart from the dragon tribe, the immemorial royal family members should also know it. Therefore, the Crimson Dragon tried. As expected, the ancient life form in front of him stopped and communicated with him. As the Crimson Dragon spoke, he emitted his dragon blood and dragon aura. The dragon blood surged and the dragon aura spread, making the ancient life form in front of him confused. He did not make a move, but his pair of cold eyes still carried a vigilant light. He stood in front and stared coldly at the Crimson Dragon, Lin Xian, and the other saints. How is it, Ruzalong? Lin Xian asked telepathically. Fortunately, these ancient life forms have just awakened and don't know much about it. Therefore, I should be able to fool him for the time being. Hurry and tell the people around to not act rashly. Hearing this, Lin Xian breathed a sigh of relief. He hurriedly transmitted to the saints, the heavenly sect, and the young martial artists, telling them to stay where they were and not move. After hearing this, those people did as they were told. After all, no one dared to joke around with their lives. Chapter 2769. The ancient creature in front of them was too powerful. They all stood there with solemn expressions. Although the other party had not attacked yet, they did not dare to be careless. If the other party attacked, they still had to be careful. Lin Xian called over all of Immortal Palace's people to his side. He lightly tapped them, a pained expression on his face. Immortal Palace had also lost more than half of their martial artists. Fortunately, although Peacock and the others were injured, their lives were not in danger for the time being. Looking around, Lin Xian felt that he had gained a great advantage. He had lost half of his martial artists, which was considered light. The Yi family and Gu family had suffered similar losses. However, the other sacred grounds and sects were in a miserable state. The better ones had lost 2/3 of their martial artists, leaving only 1/3 of their martial artists. The worse ones only had 1/10 of their martial artists left. Even those who survived were injured and in a sorry state. Lin Xian raised his head and looked at the intense battle in front of him. He frowned. He could not fight or provide support now, so he directly activated the great dragon sword soul in his body. He frantically absorbed the surrounding Tao of dragon aura. The aura here was too strong. Lin Xian did not care if the others were in the mood, or if they had the courage. Anyway, he could absorb as much as he could. However, he did not make too much of a commotion and carefully absorbed it. Roar! The ancient creature suddenly roared in a low voice. The aura on his body spread out again. A pair of cold eyes stared at Lin Xian. Obviously, he had noticed Lin Xian's actions. Lin Xian snorted coldly. The great dragon sword soul in his body roared, and a dragon's roar sounded. This made the ancient creature even more confused. The Crimson Dragon said a few more words in dragon language. Only then did the ancient creature stop and not attack. Seeing this, the Crimson Dragon also absorbed the Tao of Dragon aura. The others were shocked. However, at this moment, an earth-shattering sound suddenly came from the front, attracting everyone's attention. Including the ancient creature in front, they all turned their heads to look. Lin Xian raised his head while absorbing. Then, he was shocked. In front of him, the 10-meter-tall divine crystal suddenly cracked open. The ancient royal within, that tall violet figure, opened his eyes. His gaze turned into an evasive one, sweeping across the 9 heavens and 10 earths. In an instant, many of the elders below were penetrated by the gaze and nailed to the ground. Oh no, he's resurrected. The Crimson Dragon trembled, and Lin Xian, Leaf Daodenier, the Grand Xia Imperial Prince, and the others all looked completely shocked. As for the sage lords and pontiffs, their scalps went numb. An archaic king had been resurrected. Damn it, he's too strong. Everyone, be careful. Hurry up and use your saint weapon. The sacred leaders, sect leaders, and grand elders no longer dared to be careless. They gathered one after another and activated their saint weapons, sweeping out in all directions to resist the archaic king. Previously, they had guessed that the primordial king was very likely a sage, although the other party's aura and cultivation were very unclear. They did not know whether the other party was a saint or not. However, it was obvious that the other party was too powerful. This was far beyond their expectations. Even if they used their saint weapons, they could only contend with the other party. Damn it, this is definitely beyond the realm of invincible kings. Is he a saint or not? It's not clear. He didn't use a saint law at all. These sacred leaders and sect leaders were all stunned. After the other party appeared, his figure flashed and arrived in front of 2 Divine Wind Dynasty's royal elders. With a slap of his hand, the 2 royal elders were directly smashed into pieces. Then, he came in front of the myriad Buddhist sect's monks and similarly waved his fist. He blew up 3 monks. It was too terrifying. The other party was simply the king of close combat. He did not use any laws at all and directly used his physical strength to kill in all directions. As soon as the purple Archean king appeared, the god crystals in the surroundings shattered as well. The Archean beasts opened their eyes and charged over. Damn it! The Yi family's patriarch roared and spat out a bronze cauldron, suppressing the surroundings. With a bang, a terrifying aura blasted the surrounding archaic creatures away. However, the violet archaic king was completely unaffected and directly charged over. With a clang, a palm slapped on the green cauldron, causing a shocking vibration. Everyone's scalps went numb, and they quickly retreated. Many elders vomited mouthfuls of blood. The sky collapsed, the earth cracked, and the space shattered. In the distance, Lin Xian and the others were also affected. Fortunately, they'd already retreated to an extremely far place earlier. Otherwise, if they were any closer, the sound wave just now would have torn them apart and killed them directly. Kill. The Dayan's sacred leader waved his divine sword, and a peerless sword light descended from the sky. This sword could kill any invincible king. However, the violet archaic king was fearless. He slapped the sacred sword with his bare hands, and his palm collided with the sacred sword. Boom, boom, boom. The sacred sword trembled in the sky, and the archaic king was sent flying backward, smashing through the void. He roared repeatedly. This scene shocked everyone and made them happy at the same time. Great. The sacred weapon could suppress the other party. Use it quickly. In an instant, the Yin-Yang sect leader, Sacred Leader Thousand Thunder, Sacred Leader Thousand Beginnings, Sacred Leader Dao Yi, Sacred Leader Alcade, the Gu family, and the Yi family all used their sacred weapons. A terrifying aura surged into the sky and swept across the 9 heavens and 10 lands. However, the dangers in the surroundings were not only limited to the archaic king. Some of those archaic creatures had also used peerless treasures, but they were able to contend against these sacred weapons. Moreover, there was also the heavenly tree that had existed for 100,000 years. His attack was also very terrifying. Therefore, in an instant, the experts in the nest of 10,000 dragons all supported the archaic king. The archaic king roared, and the ground cracked open. A purple spear transformed into a purple dragon that instantly appeared in the sky and was grabbed by him. With a thrust of the spear, one of the grand elders of the 5 Elements Palace was killed. Pung! This spear pierced through the heart of the grand elder of the 5 Elements Palace. The 5 elements light on his body quickly dissipated. The long spear shook and directly blasted the grand elder into pieces. Damn it! The 5 elements sacred leader roared and activated the 5 elements pearl, releasing the energy of the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. It formed a terrifying light that charged forward to fight against the archaic king. However, the archaic king was too terrifying. Now that he had taken out a dragon-like purple spear, it was even more terrifying. Kill! An elder of the Yi clan let out a furious roar. He held a gigantic heaven-splitting axe in his hand and charged forward, engaging in a fierce battle with the immemorial king. Both of them were close combat experts and had strong physiques. Therefore, their battle was earth-shattering. All the experts were shocked. The Yi family was indeed a clan of the ancients. Their physiques were too strong. Roar! The two of them exchanged more than 100 blows. Suddenly, the archaic king roared and a purple light shot into the sky. His aura erupted once again. The surrounding Tao of dragon aura quickly surged into his body. The long spear in his hand seemed to have come alive. It turned into a purple lightning bolt. Chapter 2770. The first spear sent the sky-splitting axe flying. The second spear pierced through the Yi family elder's forehead. The Yi family elder's head exploded, and his body fell to the ground. The Yi family experts roared crazily. One of their peerless elders was killed just like that. Even his soul power did not escape. Their eyes were bloodshot as they stared at the purple primordial king. The Yi family sacred leader snorted coldly as he activated the bronze cauldron and charged over. At the same time, the Gu family and Alcade realm experts made their moves. Li Xuanxian stood in the void, his body surrounded by a biting cold blade light. Another flying dagger appeared in his hand. As soon as the flying knife appeared, the surroundings were filled with wails and cries. There was even a rain of blood. The terrifying scene caused the surrounding primordial creatures to tremble as if they were facing a great enemy. Many primordial creatures retreated. They had no choice. All the primordial creatures that were locked onto by Li Xuanxian felt a fatal sense of danger. Li Xuanxian did not attack these ordinary primordial creatures. His gaze was fixed on the primordial king who was fighting with the Gu family and Yi family. Li Xuanxian raised his hand, and the flying knife at his fingertips flickered with a terrifying light. Even the purple primordial king in the distance raised his head, a terrifying light shooting out of his eyes. The other party's flying knife also threatened him. His body emitted tens of thousands of rays of light as his speed reached the extreme. He dodged in the sky while fighting the Yi family and Gu family sacred leaders at the same time. However, Li Xuanxian did not make a move immediately. He stood in the void, accumulating power and waiting for a sure kill strike. This process was very long. As long as Li Xuanxian did not attack with his flying knife, all the primordial creatures felt their bodies go numb as they felt a potential threat. This made them very uneasy. Buzz. Finally, Li Xuanxian found an opportunity to attack. With a wave of his finger, the flying knife flew out. In an instant, wails and cries could be heard. The world lost its color as a terrifying sea of blood surged. This was a sure kill attack. Many primordial creatures were scared to the ground. In the distance, the primordial king's hair stood on end. After his uneasiness and anger, the purple light on his body shone from the sky. The purple spear in his hand was like a dragon as it danced quickly. At the same time, his speed reached the extreme. Buzz, an earth-shattering sound rang out as the primordial king roared. Purple blood burst forth, piercing through the void. A bloody hole appeared on his shoulder. A flying knife had pierced through his body. It hit. How terrifying. He was actually able to injure an archaic king. Cries of alarm rang out, and the ancient creatures roared anxiously. On the human side, the holy sovereigns, sect masters, and elders were all shocked. As expected of Xiao Li's flying dagger, his strength was not in vain. It was too frightening. Probably no one would be able to dodge this flying dagger skill. Even a primordial king with such a powerful physique was hit. Everyone was shocked. The Yi family's patriarch and the others seized this opportunity to attack like crazy. In the distance, Li Xuanxian's eyes flickered as he sighed in his heart. This attack was aimed at the center of his opponent's eyebrows. But in the end, he only managed to hit his opponent's shoulder. It could be said that it was a little different from what he had imagined. One had to admit that this primordial king was extremely terrifying. In the distance, Lin Xian and the others exclaimed when they saw this scene. This saber strike was too shocking and too fast. They didn't see it at all. They only saw Li Xuanxian waving his palm, and the primordial king was injured. Lin Xian's pupils constricted. He had seen the previous scene through the heavenly secret divine eye. At this moment, in his mind, he was still slowing down and recalling. It was indeed a peerless saber strike. It was really terrifying. He guessed that even if it were other holy sovereigns, they probably wouldn't be able to dodge it. It was even possible that they would be killed in one move. Thinking of this, he sucked in a breath of cold air. Roar, the primordial king roared crazily, and the light on his body overflowed into the sky, quickly healing his wounds. His pair of cold eyes stared fixedly at Li Xuanxian. Buzz, his body turned into a bolt of lightning and rushed over quickly, wanting to kill the other party. Because a second flying dagger appeared in Li Xuanxian's hand, he had to get rid of this hidden danger. In the blink of an eye, the primordial king arrived near Li Xuanxian and stabbed out with the long spear in his hand. Li Xuanxian was like a floating immortal, floating in the air. He dodged the shot by a hair's breadth. At the same time, the second flying dagger in his hand was sent out. With a bang, another bloody hole appeared on the primordial king's body. This bloody hole was very close to his heart. It had almost pierced through his heart. The crowd was even more astonished upon seeing this. The primordial king's face was also gloomy. With a wave of his hand, the purple long spear in his hand turned into a dragon and rushed out. It charged towards Li Xuanxian. Li Xuanxian dodged again, but this time, the purple dragon followed him closely, giving him no chance to send out a third flying dagger. Without the threat of Xiao Li's flying dagger, the primordial king once again went on a killing spree. Boom! The battle continued to erupt. Finally, a bolt of lightning flashed and the Holy Lord was torn in half. His soul was caught by the primordial king and directly destroyed. Between heaven and earth, a rain of blood fell. The wings of the thunder god danced in the sky, but it had lost its luster. Holy Lord! Frantic shouts came one after another. The martial artists of the Thousand Thunder Sacred Land had all gone crazy. The elders screamed crazily. They realized that their sacred leader had been killed. Lin Xian and the others felt their scalps go numb when they saw this scene. It was over. A holy lord had fallen. This was an earth-shattering event. Although a holy lord had been injured before, he hadn't been killed. These holy lords were very powerful. Even if their bodies were split in half or torn into pieces, they could still recover. However, it was impossible now. The holy lord's soul had been directly destroyed. This could be said to be a fatal blow. There was no chance for him to revive. Sure enough, the holy lord's body fell from the sky, smashing the void and sinking the ground. This scene caused everyone to be alarmed. Those who had died before were all elders. But now, the Holy Lord had become the first Holy Lord to die. This was absolutely shocking. If news of this spread, the entire true spirit world would probably be shaken. After all, a holy lord was a true overlord. With a stomp of his foot, the entire world would tremble. But now, he had been mercilessly killed by the primordial king. Roar, the primordial king's body was covered in blood, but it wasn't his. It was the blood of the holy lords and elders. At this moment, he was like a demonic god, looking around with a cold gaze. After killing the holy lord, he attacked again. Not good. Hurry up and leave. Many holy lands and sects quickly retreated. They opened a door and prepared to teleport. However, as soon as the Taoist gates appeared in the sky, they were shattered by the peerless formations in the surroundings. Chapter 2771. No, they couldn't leave. How could this be? Some elders took out teleportation scrolls and activated the power of space to surround them, wanting to teleport them away. However, in an instant, another peerless array formation shattered the teleportation scrolls. Those who were about to leave fell from the sky. Everyone's face was pale. Oh no! Damn it! We can't leave. They were really panicking. Previously, they were willing to give it their all because they had trump cards, Tao gates, and teleportation scrolls. They could leave at any time. But now, they realized that their escape route had been sealed. There was no way to escape. This scene caused the faces of these powerhouses to change completely. Lowly humans, you shall all die here. The primordial king's soul released a terrifying divine thought that swept in all directions. A monstrous killing intent was emitted from his eyes. In the next moment, he raised his hands high, and the aura on his body surged. In the distance, an object flew over quickly. It was a giant dragon that danced in the sky. Its body gradually turned into a dragon saber. It was held in the hands of the primordial king. Buzz! A terrifying power erupted, and those sacred leaders and sect masters retreated frantically. Oh no, a sage's weapon. He's going to use a sage's weapon. Stop him. These people shouted frantically. Golden sword, yin-yang mirror, great Tao treasure bottle, bronze cauldron. Everyone attacked crazily, especially the Yi family's patriarch, who activated the bronze cauldron with all his might. Boom, boom, boom. In the sky, the terrifying dragon saber roared. The terrifying sound completely spread out, and the entire sky was boiling. Countless cracks appeared. A saber light could kill any powerhouse. Everyone was horrified by this scene. Lin Xian and the others were facing a great enemy. They realized that their bodies could not move. The sacred leaders and sect masters in front of them also had ugly expressions. Hurry up and attack. Don't hold back. These sacred leaders and sect masters activated the sage artifacts in their hands with all their might. The Yi family's patriarch gathered the elders of the Yi family. In front of them, the bronze cauldron floated up and down, flickering with a terrifying light. The Yi family's patriarch and the elders quickly performed hand seals and poured all the power in their bodies into the bronze cauldron. Boom! The bronze cauldron erupted with an extremely terrifying power. It was like a demonic mountain that suppressed the surroundings. The entire sky trembled. How terrifying! It had the power of the celestial arch cauldron. An expert exclaimed. The yin-yang mirror erupted with a brilliant light that threatened to engulf the entire world. Golden holy swords, great Tao treasured vases, and sages' weapons soared into the sky. He wanted to suppress the dragon knife together. The primordial king was simply too strong. Even though they were both sage weapons, the strength of the primordial king was still extremely strong. Thus, when he unleashed his saint's weapon, the power he unleashed was truly incomparably terrifying. It swept through everything. Although he was suppressed, he didn't fall behind. The sky-piercing god tree also launched an attack. Thousands of tree trunks fused with the surrounding Tao of dragon aura, turning into numerous gigantic dragons that began to attack the sacred leaders and sect masters. Li Xuanxian sent out the third flying knife, knocking away the purple long spear. Thus, at the same time, he met up with the great guardian and the others. Together, they formed a large seal. The four directions' great imprint continuously enlarged, releasing an endless aura. After receiving the support of so many unrivaled kings, the terrifying power became more and more intense, surging in all directions. A great battle broke out. So many sage weapons collided, erupting with unparalleled light. The entire world seemed to be about to be destroyed. Lin Xian and the others were sent flying by a violent force. They didn't know how many tens of thousands of miles they were sent flying. The weaker ones were killed by the energy. The stronger ones also vomited large mouthfuls of blood. Even Lin Xian's 9 young divine body was shattered, with many cracks appearing on it. On the other side, Yi Wudao and Wuchen were the same. They were all injured. The Crimson Dragon, Murong Qingqing, and Shun Jingqiu were also injured. Fortunately, everyone finally stopped. However, before they could catch their breath, another wave of shocking energy erupted in front of them. It was even more terrifying than the previous energy shockwaves. Not good. The expressions of the saints and elites changed. Lin Xian didn't say a word and directly sent out the black earth. All the people around him were stored inside. Yi Wudao also sent out a replica of the Celestial Emperor's Cauldron. The Alcade Sage, the Grand Xia Prince, Wuchen, and the others all used their trump cards to protect the martial artists of their sacred grounds. In an instant, these people were sent flying again. The battle this time was too tragic. Lin Xian and the others were sent flying for millions of miles. They had no idea how the battle was going. They could only see rays of apocalyptic divine light dancing in the sky, and the terrifying sound of thunder kept ringing. 5 days passed. 10 days passed. 20 days passed. The battle lasted for a month and was still ongoing. Lin Xian, Yi Wudao, and the others were stunned. Only now did they know how terrifying these sacred leaders and sect masters were. One had to know that such a shocking battle consumed a lot of energy. Especially when he was using a saint weapon, the power was like flowing water, flowing away at an extremely fast speed. However, these sacred leaders and sect masters were actually able to fight for a month without weakening. It was truly terrifying. However, they weren't happy. Instead, their expressions became uglier. This was because they could feel that more and more powerhouses in the nest of 10,000 dragons were reviving. Besides the purple primordial king, another primordial king was revived on the 20th day. More primordial creatures were revived. A month later, a third primordial king was revived. The 3 primordial kings joined forces and shook the world. Fortunately, there were many sacred leaders and sect masters who came this time and brought many sage weapons. Otherwise, they would have been killed long ago. Even so, it was only a matter of time before they died. Because up until now, 5 sacred leaders and sect masters had already died. The number of elders who died was uncountable. There was nothing they could do. 3 primordial kings, a heavenly tree that had lived for 100,000 years, and countless primordial creatures. Together with the peerless formation, these sacred leaders couldn't resist at all. It was already very difficult for them to fight until now. However, these were only 3 primordial kings. Who knew how many powerhouses were buried in the nest of 10,000 dragons? And there were definitely existences more terrifying than the primordial kings. If such a powerhouse came out, all of their sacred leaders and sect masters would be finished. Even the people of the remote antiquity families were no exception. Sure enough, after another 10 days, an extremely terrifying sage aura suddenly emerged from the depths of the nest of 10,000 dragons. Countless laws danced in the sky, turning into dragons. It's over. A true sage has revived. The expressions of the Yi family patriarch, Queen Mother of the West, Li Xuanxian, and the others completely changed. Although the previous 3 primordial kings were extremely terrifying, they didn't use any laws at all. They knew that these primordial kings weren't sages, but extremely terrifying, invincible kings. But now, sage laws floated out from the depths. Only a true sage could use this kind of law. Chapter 2772. Needless to say, an ancient sage of the nest of 10,000 dragons was about to awaken. Then, they were definitely in danger. It's over. Are we all going to die here? The young disciples screamed, and the holy sons and geniuses also turned pale. Even the sacred leaders and sect masters had fallen, let alone them. They were only at the periphery of the war and hadn't been affected. If the ancient creatures noticed them, it would be difficult for them to resist. Lin Xian's face was also gloomy. He asked, Rouzelong, is there any other way? The Crimson Dragon shook his head. No, unless we can break into the nest of 10,000 dragons and send the news out so that the sages outside can take action. But we can't do that at all. Not to mention us. Even those sacred leaders and sect masters with powerful treasures can't send the news out. I'm afraid this time, it's really over. But kid, don't worry. I can save your life no matter what. At this point, the Crimson Dragon's eyes lit up. No matter what, Bin Huang is also a dragon. You have the great dragon sword soul. The two of us can use the dragon blood and dragon might to communicate with them. We can probably survive. As for the others, they are probably going to die here. What? They're all going to die here? As soon as these words came out, Lin Xian was shocked. Peacock, Hu Yidao, and the others behind him were even more stunned. Morong Qingqing, Shun Jingqiu, and the other great sect's people were also pale, without a trace of blood. No way. Lin Xian's face was also ugly. Although not all of the sacred leaders and sect masters had come this time, at least half of the sacred leaders and sect masters had come. If these people were to fall here, it would truly be a shocking event. Other than the ancient war years, there had never been a time like this where half of the sacred leaders and sect masters had died at once. Could it be that the nest of 10,000 dragons is so terrifying? It can kill so many powerhouses before it's even born? If it really comes to the outside world, what kind of storm will it set off? I was too careless this time. The Crimson Dragon's face was also ugly. They originally thought that this was the burial ground of the dragon race. Even if it was dangerous, it was already a dead dragon. So what if he was strong? However, to their surprise, those dragons were not dead at all. Instead, they were merely sleeping. Now, they were resurrected one by one. How were they supposed to fight? Even if a saint were to come, it would not be enough. No, I can't do this. I can't just sit here and wait for death. Lin Xian shook his head. He had to think of a way to spread the news. It was too dangerous. Although the Crimson Dragon said that they might survive, it was just a possibility. The two of them weren't from the nest of 10,000 dragons at all, especially him. He was just a human, and he had endless secrets. How could these powerhouses of the nest of 10,000 dragons let him off? Moreover, there was also the safety of Morong Qingqing and Shun Jingqiu. Therefore, Lin Xian did not intend to sit and wait for death. He had to think of a way. What could he do? The Crimson Dragon shook its head. There's nothing we can do about it. None of our trump cards will work. Even our holy weapons won't work, let alone anything else. That might not necessarily be the case. Lin Xian's eyes lit up. Don't forget what I have. Are you saying that you want to use that thing? That's impossible. Although that thing is powerful, you're too weak now. Moreover, this thing needs strength to recover. If you were a saint, it might be possible. But now, it's impossible. The Crimson Dragon shook its head. He naturally knew what Lin Xian was talking about. What Lin Xian was talking about was naturally the Great Dragon Sword Soul in his body. The Great Dragon Sword Soul was an offensive saint technique. Its attack power was extremely terrifying. However, it had already lost too much power. Although Lin Xian had recovered so much, it was still not enough. It was impossible to break through the nest of 10,000 dragons. What if it's not my own power? Lin Xian's eyes erupted with a sharp light. There were so many Tao of dragon auras here, and so many powerhouses working together to stimulate the Great Dragon Sword Soul. They could definitely break through the nest of 10,000 dragons. As long as the nest of 10,000 dragons was broken, the people outside would definitely sense the information here. At that time, we'll be saved. Otherwise, we'll all die here. Kid, think carefully. If you do this, you'll undoubtedly expose your secret. The Crimson Dragon stared at Lin Xian. Lin Xian said, It's nothing. Not for anything else, but for ourselves. For Qingqing and Qiu'er, so be it. All right, I can only give it a try. Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon left the Black Earth. they appeared outside again. Seeing Lin Xian come out, Yi Wudao, Wu Chen, the Alcade Saint, and the others were puzzled. What was going on? What was Lin Xian doing? Just as they were about to ask, they saw Lin Xian walking forward. The nine-yang divine body bloomed with light, resisting the terrifying air waves. At the same time, he gathered his strength and let out a loud voice. Everyone, help me. I have a way to break through the nest of 10,000 dragons. His voice was like thunder, spreading clearly in all directions. What? Nearby, Yi Wudao, Wu Chen, the Alcade Saint, the Prince of Great Xia, and the other saints were all stunned. They didn't dare to believe what Lin Xian said. The Alcade Saint's face darkened as he snorted coldly. What kind of joke was this? So many sect masters couldn't do anything. How could you? However, Lin Xian ignored him and transmitted his voice again. In front, the sect masters who were fighting with the archaic king also heard this voice. They also frowned, and their faces were solemn. What was Lin Xian doing? Although the other party was the master of a mortal palace, at this juncture, the other party was too weak. Did he want to show off? He was too inexperienced. Li Xuanxian, the great protector, and the other powerhouses of a mortal palace changed their expressions. Could it be that the palace master had a way? I don't know. The great protector shook his head, but with my understanding of the palace master, he wouldn't say anything. The palace master wouldn't speak out of thin air. Although everything he did was inconceivable, it was all successful in the end. Hearing this, Li Xuanxian was surprised. He nodded. All right, then I'll believe in the palace master. All powerhouses of a mortal palace, listen up, follow me back and assist the palace master. With an order, all the powerhouses of a mortal palace flew back and began to leave the battle. They gathered towards Lin Xian. Damn it! Did the people of a mortal palace want to escape? When the other great sects of the Holy Land saw this scene, they were all furious. The Queen Mother, the Yi family's patriarch, the Gu family's patriarch, the Emperor of Great Xia, and the others looked at each other, their eyes flickering. What should they do? Palace Master Ling was a mysterious person. Perhaps he really had a way. The Queen Mother said in a deep voice. Indeed, young geniuses have endless secrets on them. Even I can't see through them. Perhaps he really has a way. These holy lords quickly transmitted their voices. At the same time, they also retreated frantically. Not only that, the Yi family's patriarch said to the surroundings that perhaps there really was a way to leave the nest of 10,000 dragons. Chapter 2773. What? Seeing this scene, the other sacred leaders and sect masters were all stunned. The supreme elders were also at a loss. What was going on? Could it be that the Queen Mother, the Yi family's patriarch, and the others really had to believe that Lin Xian? He was just a brat. Even if he was conferred the title of Middle Emperor, he was only from the younger generation. In such a war, the other party probably wouldn't even be able to withstand a single energy shockwave. What was there to talk about? Not to mention breaking into the nest of 10,000 dragons. Therefore, these sacred leaders and sect masters didn't believe it at all. Behind them, the saints and geniuses were also discussing. Lin Xian heaved a sigh of relief. He discovered that Li Xuanxian had arrived with the people from the Immortal Palace. The Queen Mother, the Yi family's patriarch, and the others also gathered here. As long as the sacred leaders believed in him, it would be fine. He believed that in the end, these people would definitely lend him a hand with all their might. Li Xuanxian, the head guardian, and the other powerhouses descended and protected Lin Xian. At the same time, Li Xuanxian asked, Hall Master, what can we do? Elderly, head guardian, I'm going to take out my trump card. You must protect me well. Lin Xian smiled and shrugged. Hearing this, the eyes of Li Xuanxian, the head guardian, and the others lit up. As expected, their hall master still had a trump card. Li Xuanxian said, Don't worry, hall master. With us here, we definitely won't let anyone hurt you. Hopefully. Lin Xian sighed in his heart. He knew that he might be fine now, but what about in the future? After he went out, he would probably be in danger. After all, he was using the great dragon sword soul. Moreover, He was doing it in front of so many sacred leaders and living fossils. As long as one person discovered the great dragon sword soul, he would probably be targeted by countless powerhouses in the future. However, Lin Xian couldn't care less. Putting aside whether he wanted the lives of those sacred leaders and sect masters, he was doing this to save himself. Therefore, he had to give it his all. He would talk about the future later. Moreover, he guessed that after the revival of the nest of 10,000 dragons this time, the continent wouldn't be too peaceful in the future. Winds and clouds would surge, and perhaps a world-shaking battle would break out. At that time, it was hard to say if the sacred leaders and sect masters would care about him. Thinking of this, Lin Xian's eyes shone with a cold light. With a wave of his hands, the great dragon sword soul rushed out of his body. Buzz, the great dragon sword soul transformed into a dragon-shaped sword shadow in front of him, exuding a mysterious aura. What is this? Li Xuanxian, Great Protector, and Immortal Palace's unmatched experts were all shocked. They fixed their eyes on the dragon-shaped sword shadow. Leaf Daudenier, the Grand Xia Crown Prince, the Alcade Sage Son, and the others all felt their eyelids twitch. Their faces were also filled with shock as they watched. At this moment, countless eyes were fixed on the great dragon sword spirit. What was that? This wasn't the first time Lin Xian had used this sword shadow. They discussed animatedly. They had seen the dragon-shaped sword shadow before, but it was their first time seeing it at such a close distance. The green dragon-shaped sword shadow floated in the void. The dragon head and sword body were lifelike, and it carried a terrifying pressure. It was like a giant dragon. Especially Li Xuanxian and the others, they were extremely shocked. They felt as if this was a sleeping giant dragon that possessed endless energy. Once it fully erupted, it would kill them all. This sense of crisis was even more terrifying than when they faced the purple archaic king. What was that? They raised their heads and looked at Lin Xian. Lin Xian didn't say anything. Instead, he urged the great dragon sword soul with all his strength. Roar, a loud dragon roar sounded. The great dragon sword soul erupted, turning into a giant dragon shadow that soared into the sky. At the same time, the surrounding dragon aura was crazily absorbed by the great dragon sword soul. A terrifying power erupted and swept in all directions. What a terrifying aura! These people were terrified. This aura was too fierce. It surprised Yi Wudao, the Alcade Sage, and the others. Even Li Xuanxian, the chief guardian, and the others frowned. One had to know that Lin Xian was only an unparalleled almighty right now. For him to be able to unleash a power that could threaten them was simply too shocking. How many levels did he have to jump to be able to do this? He was definitely a peerless genius. He really had the bearing of a young great emperor. This scene also attracted the attention of the sacred leaders and sect masters. However, those sacred leaders and sect masters frowned. Lin Xian was indeed impressive, but with his current strength, how could he possibly break through the nest of 10,000 dragons? What a fool's dream. They sneered disdainfully because this power couldn't compare to the sacred weapons in their hands. However, even they couldn't break through the nest of 10,000 dragons with their sacred weapons. Li Xuanxian, the chief guardian, and the others naturally knew this. So these invincible kings all looked at Lin Xian with doubt. Lin Xian said to them, "Everyone, attack and inject your power into the dragon sword soul." So that's how it works. Everyone was shocked, but Li Xuanxian and the others were extremely puzzled. They had used this method before, which was to activate the sacred weapons in their hands together. For example, the clear sky seal in their hands was activated by a group of invincible kings. Could it be that the potential of this sword shadow was even more terrifying than a sacred weapon? They didn't know, but they still did as they were told. These invincible kings all released their power and injected it into the dragon-shaped sword shadow in front of them. Lin Xian's eyes flashed. "Ruzalong, you guys should attack as well." At the same time, the Crimson Dragon, Shen Jingqiu, Murong Qingqing, Peacock, and Immortal Palace's Jade Pool Zixia all attacked. Lin Xian turned his head and looked around. "Brother Yi, the princes of the Grand Xia, everyone attack together. If you want to live, attack with all your strength. Otherwise, everyone will die here. Hearing this, the expressions of the sacred leaders turned ugly. However, they still decided to give it a try. Because Yi Wudao and the others had already attacked, the remaining people also attacked. In an instant, these young disciples all released their power and injected it into the great dragon sword soul. With so many people's power, the great dragon sword soul became even stronger. Roar! A loud dragon roar resounded through the 9 heavens and 10 earths. The primordial creatures and the 3 primordial kings who were fighting in front of them all frowned. They didn't attack again. Instead, they looked behind them in shock. What was that? Dragon! The primordial creatures cried out in alarm. They were all speaking the primordial language. Although the sacred leaders and sect leaders couldn't understand it, they could still deduce it based on the fluctuations of their souls. The 3 primordial kings' eyes flashed, and a biting cold light burst out from their eyes as they stared at the sword shadow in the distance. They roared and wanted to charge over. Stop them! The Yi family head, Queen Mother of the West, and the others roared. They quickly attacked and stopped the 3 primordial kings. At the same time, they shouted coldly again and quickly attacked, injecting their power into the dragon shadow. Chapter 2774. What exactly is that kid's weapon? The other sacred leaders, sect masters, and elders were also extremely shocked. To be able to make a primordial king so irritable and uneasy, the weapon in the other party's hand must be very terrifying. Could it be even more terrifying than a sage's weapon? These people did not know. However, they still sent out waves of energy and poured it into the sword. The dragon sword soul's power also suddenly erupted when it received the energy. After all, it was originally an offensive saint technique, but it required a huge amount of energy. Now that it had so much energy to provide, its power also increased exponentially. Soon, it reached the level of a sacred weapon. Waves of sharp sword chi made everyone tremble. The power of this sword shadow was actually not weaker than a sacred weapon. What exactly is it? Could it be a sacred weapon too? These people were extremely shocked. No, why do I feel that it has surpassed a sacred weapon? Heavens, what exactly is this? As more and more sacred leaders, sect masters, and grand elders poured their energy into the dragon sword soul, the dragon sword soul became even more dazzling. The great dragon sword soul emitted an even brighter light. At this moment, it was truly like a peerless divine sword. It could destroy everything. The bodies of those primordial creatures trembled, and they could not help but want to kneel down. This was because the peerless sword shadow in front of them, in addition to its terrifying aura, also emitted an extremely heavy dragon's might. This dragon's might made the 3 primordial kings' expressions change. Their bodies bloomed with light as they tried their best to resist. Lin Xian controlled the dragon sword soul and slashed out. Between heaven and earth, a sword light slashed forward. With a bang, a primordial king was sent flying. Bang! The primordial king was split in half, and blood flowed wildly, dyeing the sky red. Heavens! This scene made everyone exclaim. The sacred leaders and sect masters also felt their scalps go numb in shock. They had fought for so long, but they had not seriously injured a primordial king. The other party only swung a sword shadow and directly split a primordial king's body in half. This method was heaven-defying. For a moment, everyone looked at Lin Xian. Is this kid still human? Why do I feel that his trump card is more powerful than ours? Damn it, is he really just a young man? These people are crazy. Which one of these patriarchs had not lived for countless years and experienced countless battles? What kind of genius had they not seen before? However, at that moment, they looked at Lin Xian with disbelief. Could it be that this kid really had the disposition of a great emperor? Perhaps even a young great emperor was only at this level. What exactly was this dragon shadow? These people discussed animatedly. Of course, they didn't forget to continue pouring in energy. That was because they could tell that the great dragon sword soul required an enormous amount of energy. Auror. These sacred leaders and sect masters had underestimated the great dragon sword soul. The archaic creature in front of him roared crazily. Its body fell down without healing. The other two Archean kings also roared, shaking the clouds in the sky. One of their companions, an archaic king, was killed by a single sword strike. Even his soul had been shattered. There was no way he could be revived. The astonishment caused by this scene was no less than the uproar caused by the death of sacred ruler 10,000 Lightning. These ancient life forms had all gone mad. Their eyes widened in disbelief. What was going on? Not to mention these archaic kings and ancient life forms. Even the sacred leaders, sect masters, and elders on the human side were stunned. Their minds were blank. At their level, especially the archaic kings, even if their bodies were shattered, even if there was only a drop of blood, they could probably be reborn. Unless their souls were directly destroyed, they couldn't be revived. For example, sacred ruler 10,000 Lightning's soul was directly destroyed by the archaic Wang family. That was why he died. It was the same for the other sacred rulers. But now, could it be that this archaic king's soul was also killed by a single sword strike? Heavens, what kind of sword chi was this? So terrifying? Everyone was terrified. Now they knew why Lin Xian said that there was a way to break the nest of 10,000 dragons. If they went crazy and desperately poured in their energy to push this dragon shadow with all their might, they might really be able to break the nest of 10,000 dragons. Thinking of this, these sacred leaders and sect masters were extremely excited. The elders of the sacred grounds were even more excited, as if they had been injected with stimulants. The Yi family patriarch, Queen Mother of the West, and the others were even more surprised. This young man had too many secrets on him. Especially the Yi family patriarch, the Gu family patriarch, and the supreme elders, their eyes flickered. Why did it feel like this thing was the same as the legendary thing? No way. Are you talking about that thing? How many tens of thousands of years has it not appeared? How could he have it? That might not be the case. The nest of 10,000 dragons had not appeared for many years, but it had revived now. It wasn't impossible for this kid to have that thing. These sacred leaders and supreme elders discussed animatedly with a strange light in their eyes. Even Li Xuanxian and the Great Guardian had a thought in their hearts. They thought of a legendary thing, but they weren't too sure. And now, they didn't have time to think too much because the archaic creatures in front of them had erupted again. The two archaic kings activated their sacred weapons crazily and charged over, wanting to intercept Lin Xian and the dragon-shaped sword shadow in the sky. Lin Xian took a deep breath, and his body shone brightly. He was like a peerless martial god as he waved the dragon-shaped sword shadow. The two swords slashed out, sending the two archaic kings flying. Wherever it passed, the bodies of the ancient creatures in the surroundings would explode and turn into a bloody mist, no longer existing. Nothing could stop his sword. Was this the power of the great dragon sword soul? How terrifying! Lin Xian was also extremely shocked. He knew that as long as he continued to cultivate, his strength would increase, and one day, he wouldn't need the power of these sacred leaders and sect masters. He would be able to erupt with such power alone. Thinking of this, he was extremely excited and eager to increase his cultivation strength. In the next moment, a sharp light appeared in his eyes as he raised his head to look at the endless void. In the sky, countless dragon-shaped auras surged, turning into rolling thunderclouds that covered the sky. Lin Xian snorted coldly, waved the dragon-shaped sword shadow, and slashed upwards. With a slash of the sword, heaven and earth split open, colliding with the peerless array formation in the sky, forming a world-destroying light. Rumble. The sky collapsed and the earth cracked, the earth shook, and the endless dragon veins collapsed. This attack could be said to be terrifying. However, Lin Xian frowned. It blocked. The peerless array formation of the nest of 10,000 dragons actually blocked the attack of the great dragon sword soul. Heavens, this was too unbelievable. Damn it! What kind of array formation did the nest of 10,000 dragons set up? It was actually so terrifying. The sacred leaders and elders all screamed because they discovered that the power of the great dragon sword soul had actually surpassed that of a sacred weapon and could easily kill an archaic king. But even so, they were still unable to break the array formation here. This really shocked them. No wonder they couldn't open it with the sacred weapons in their hands previously. It was too terrifying. It was definitely set up by the supreme powerhouses of the nest of 10,000 dragons. Chapter 2775. Not enough. The power is not enough. Hurry up and input more. Don't hold back at all. Lin Xin shouted again. He knew that these sacred leaders and sect masters did not pour all of their power into the sword. Indeed, these sacred leaders and sect masters were holding back. Lin Xin floated in the air. Even though he was young, he was like an unparalleled king that circled the area. Everyone, could it be that you really want to die here? If you open the nest of 10,000 dragons, everyone will have a way to survive. Otherwise, you will all die with them. This time, he didn't hold back. Even when facing these sacred leaders and sect masters, his voice was still cold. Hearing this, the sacred leaders and sect masters' faces darkened. They had never been lectured by a junior like this before. However, what the other party said was indeed the truth. Let's fight with all our might. The Yi clan master took a deep breath. The Queen Mother of the West also nodded. The others also did the same. Boom, boom, boom. The sacred leaders and sect masters' bodies bloomed with light as they erupted with power once again. However, at this moment, the distant sky was pierced through. Dozens of divine lights flew over and directly killed some of the elders. Not good, they attacked. Damn it, hurry up and input energy. The expressions of these sacred leaders changed. They didn't dare to delay any longer and crazily poured their energy into the dragon shadow. This was because they realized that the sacred might in the distance was getting stronger and stronger. It was obvious that the sacred might of the primordial royal family was about to awaken. If he really awakened, even if they had the dragon-shaped sword shadow, it would be difficult for them to resist. After all, a true sacred might was an existence that transcended heaven and earth. Boom, boom. The sacred leaders and sect masters and grand elders poured their energy into the dragon shadow as if they had gone crazy. The great dragon sword soul erupted once again. This time, its power rose rapidly. Lin Xian found it difficult to swing it. However, he still roared and swung it with all his might. At this moment, he seemed to have merged with the great dragon sword. With a swing of his sword, he sent all the divine chains of order in the sky flying. At the same time, he slashed at the peerless formation in the sky again. Today's shocking collision was accompanied by a world-destroying divine light. This time, even the exceptional formation began to tremble and cracks began to appear on it. Rays of light burst out. Great, the peerless formation was broken. One more strike, and the formation would be broken. The sacred leaders and sect masters cried out crazily. The young disciples also cried out in alarm. This is great. As long as they could break it open, the experts outside would be able to come in. Then, they would be able to leave alive. Many people were moved to tears. In the distance, an even more terrifying creature appeared, erupting like a volcano. The entire sky trembled as it was enveloped by a fiery red light. Not good. That saint has probably already walked out of the frozen divine crystal. One of the Yaoguang sacred land's supreme elders' expression changed. Buzz, the expressions of these holy lords and grand elders changed drastically. This was because a figure had appeared in the void above. It was an indifferent person. This person had dragon scales on his body, and divine chains of laws surrounded him. He was like an immortal king, looking down on the common people. That aura caused everyone to tremble. The young disciples immediately knelt on the ground, unable to raise their heads. Even the elders were trembling in fear. Not good. Those sacred lords activated their sacred weapons with all their might to resist this pressure. A sage. He was a sage. A saint was looking down at them. Was he really going to die here today? Damn it. He was so close to being able to split open the nest of 10,000 dragons. These people's faces were filled with despair. Lin Xian's pupils constricted, and his face turned pale without a trace of blood. A saint. This was a true saint. Even if he was staring at them, these people felt as if they had fallen into a 10,000-year-old ice cave. Their entire bodies tensed up, and they couldn't move at all. So what if he was a saint? Kill! Lin Xian roared angrily. He waved his sword and quickly charged over. The great dragon sword soul roared. It drew a terrifying dragon in the sky and slashed forward. When the saint in the sky saw this scene, he snorted coldly and struck out with his palm. A huge palm that blotted out the sky grabbed forward as if it wanted to capture the great dragon sword soul. With a swoosh, it grabbed the great dragon sword soul. Like an immortal rope, it directly enveloped the great dragon sword soul. Great! He caught it. The primordial creatures cheered wildly. The primordial kings also sneered. They actually dared to fight against their saint. They really didn't know what was good for them. It was over. Had they been subdued? On the side of the human race, the faces of the saint lords and elders turned pale. Their faces were filled with despair. Some even wanted to risk their lives and use their saint weapons again. But at this moment, there was a change in front. A huge crack appeared in the sky. The terrifying palm suddenly collapsed. A dragon's roar sounded, and a terrifying sword light soared into the sky. It was slashed open. The great dragon sword soul was incomparably powerful. It slashed open the saint's palm. The huge palm in the sky turned into dragon energy and dissipated into thin air. Everyone was shocked by this scene. The Taigu kings were stunned. The human saint lords and sect masters were also in disbelief. This sword soul was too terrifying. Although it had gathered the power of all of them, it was still able to contend against the saints' nomological laws. It was really surprising. I will definitely be able to break through the 10,000 dragon suppression, Lin Xian roared. The saint lords and sect masters frantically poured their power into the sword soul. The sword soul continued to erupt, turning into countless dragon shadows that soared into the sky. With a boom, this time, he directly smashed into the Peerless Array formation and broke it. Endless mountains rose and rolled in the Qinling Mountains. Many people gathered here. They knew that this was the nest of 10,000 dragons. These people continued to rush over. Of course, there were also cultivators from the Holy Land, and the great sects guarding this place to prevent anyone from destroying it. Suddenly, the entire Qinling Mountains trembled violently. The dragon veins within millions of miles rumbled. The endless mountains split open, the trees collapsed, and a terrifying crack appeared on the ground. The clouds in the sky were scattered. What was going on? What happened? Stop! The expressions of the cultivators from the Holy Land and the great sects changed. Damn it! Could it be that some shocking change had happened in the nest of 10,000 dragons? They soared into the sky. The surrounding cultivators who had rushed over were so frightened that their faces turned pale. They retreated one after another. Just as they left, there was a loud roar. The ground split open, and a dragon vein was severed. A sword light shot out from the ground, turning into a huge dragon that roared in all directions. At this moment, everyone within a radius of millions of miles was sensed. After this dragon shadow, roars sounded one after another, turning into rolling thunderclouds that rushed into the sky and spread in all directions. Immediately after, everyone saw countless lights flickering in the huge crack, turning into Dao doors and spaces. They spread in all directions. This was the aura of the holy lords and sect masters. Damn it! What exactly happened to the 10,000 dragons' annihilation? It actually made these holy lords and sect masters start to call for help? That's right. This dragon shadow was the great dragon sword soul. This time, Lin Xian controlled the great dragon sword soul and finally pierced through the sky. He poked a hole in the nest of 10,000 dragons. Those holy lords and sect masters immediately sent out distress signals. However, their faces were incomparably pale, because the saint in the nest of 10,000 dragons had made his move again. Another palm stretched out, covering the sky and the earth. The palm carried terrifying divine chains of order that pierced through the void. These were the laws of heaven and earth. In an instant, the void around them was frozen. These people couldn't move, and their faces were filled with fear. Only Lin Xian and those holy lords with holy weapons could still resist. The others were all trembling. In the sky, Countless laws descended along with the palm, wanting to kill all of these people. Chapter 2776. However, at this moment, the void split open and a fist blasted over. It also carried the laws and the divine chains of order as it collided with the saint's palm. Boom, boom, boom. The divine chains of order danced in the sky. A terrifying saint's might was vast and mighty, and everyone was sent flying. It was a saint. A saint had made a move. Great, our saint has arrived. On the side of the human race, these sect masters were ecstatic. Sure enough, an old figure appeared in the sky once again. This was the supreme saint of the great Xia dynasty. After he appeared, he immediately blocked the saint of the nest of 10,000 dragons. Moreover, his other palm waved, enveloping Lin Xian and all the surrounding human warriors and sending them out of the nest of 10,000 dragons. It's too dangerous here. You guys go out first. The old voice sounded. Indeed, in a battle between saints, any random law would be able to kill them. It was indeed not suitable for them to watch the battle here. The world spun. Lin Xian and the others were wrapped by the palm and instantly arrived high in the sky. They came out. They finally came out. Looking at the nest of 10,000 dragons below, they felt as if a lifetime had passed. They didn't expect that the exploration of the nest of 10,000 dragons this time would be so dangerous. These sect masters and heavenly glue almost all died inside. Thinking about it, they were really scared. Many people screamed crazily, feeling as if they had survived a disaster. Lin Xian also heaved a sigh of relief. Then, their expressions changed drastically. Retreat. Retreat quickly. These people retreated crazily. This was because another aura came from the nest of 10,000 dragons. A power that belonged to a saint swept through the surroundings. Needless to say, the two saints inside had already fought. Human saints, do you really think that you can contend against our nest of 10,000 dragons? An angry roar sounded. Then, the three saints' might in the nest of 10,000 dragons appeared. The saint of the nest of 10,000 dragons had awakened again. The expressions of the powerhouses of the great Xia dynasty changed. Those elders were even more shocked. 2 against 1, their elders were in danger. Don't worry, our saints are coming soon. The people of the Yi and Gu families said one after another. Sure enough, the void split open and figures appeared one after another, quickly entering the nest of 10,000 dragons below. At this moment, the world was in an uproar. Everyone sensed a thick saint's might coming from underground. Oh heavens, the birth of a saint. Is there going to be a big change? Something must have happened to the nest of 10,000 dragons. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many saints. The empires and sacred grounds in Zhongzhou were all discussing this. Their sect master and sacred master had brought people to the nest of 10,000 dragons. Something must have really happened. Not only the middle ground state, but the sacred grounds and sects of the other 4 continents also activated supreme spell formations. Either they were teleported over, or they were watching from afar using their immense magic power. At this moment, the gazes of everyone in the quintessential world were focused on the nest of 10,000 dragons. Ancestor, there's an immortal divine herb in there. Many sacred leaders and sect masters quickly transmitted messages to the sages of their sacred grounds. If they could bring back the immortal god medicine, then they would really be rich. Several figures descended upon the nest of 10,000 dragons. There was also an even more terrifying aura awakening inside, making it so that no one could stay within a radius of 10 million miles. These warriors quickly rose into the air and flew into the distance. Lin Xian and the others used the teleportation platform to teleport away. Did the old palace master not come? Li Xian and the others retreated to a safe distance and frowned. What was going on? They had sent out several messages, so the old palace master should have known. But why hadn't he appeared yet? Forget it, we don't have to care about such things. Thinking about the matter of the Yuhua immortal robe. Indeed, many people fought over the Yuhua immortal robe last time. In the end, Xia Jiuyou made a move at the critical moment and directly snatched it away. Perhaps The other party planned to do the same this time. Therefore, Lin Xian and the others all settled down and waited carefully. Ahead, sage might filled the air, and laws danced in the air. It was a scene of destruction. One could imagine that a shocking battle had definitely happened in the nest of 10,000 dragons. Half a day later, an earth-shattering roar resounded through the clouds. Countless voids shattered. Even thousands of miles away, Lin Xian and the others felt their blood boil. Many of them directly vomited blood. Damn it, what kind of roar was this? An even more terrifying existence had revived. They retreated in horror. In the nest of 10,000 dragons, the human sages turned into streams of light and appeared. They tore through the void and quickly left. There was even sage blood floating in the sky. A drop of sage blood crushed the heavens, turning into a monstrous sea of blood that enveloped a radius of millions of miles. Let's go. The sage of the Great Xia dynasty instantly appeared near the disciples of the Great Xia dynasty. With a wave of his hand, he took away all the people of the Great Xia dynasty. Apart from him, the Yi family, Gu family, Jade Lake, and the other sages who came all took their disciples away. When the others saw this scene, they were even more terrified. What happened? Why did these sages retreat? Why was there still sage blood floating in the sky? What kind of existence had revived? They didn't dare to imagine. However, they weren't stupid. They quickly tore through the void and opened the Dao Gate to teleport. Let's go too. Li Xuanxian opened the scroll. The power of space wrapped Lin Xian and the others, and they disappeared into the void. Soon, they returned to the immortal palace. All the holy lands and sects had retreated. After returning, they all inquired about the news. Elder, what exactly is going on? The Yi family patriarch, Yi Wudao, and the others stood there and asked. An old man stood in front of them. He was naturally the sage of the Yi family. His expression was incomparably solemn. Something big had happened. Recently, he warned the disciples of the family not to go out recklessly. Gather all the resources we have outside and bring them to the family. The family will enter a state of alert and ensure that there are enough resources to be able to activate the extreme Dao weapon, the Celestial Emperor Cauldron, at any time. What? Hearing this, the Yi family patriarch's eyes widened in disbelief. Yi Wudao and the other elders and disciples of the Yi family were all stunned. Activate the Celestial Emperor Cauldron at any time? That was an extreme Dao weapon. What exactly happened? It actually made a sage say such serious words. It wasn't just the Yi family, the Gu family, the Grand Xia dynasty, the myriad Buddha temple, and all the other sages, without exception, all warned their disciples and descendants. At the same time, they asked their holy lands and families to be on high alert and activate the Peerless Formation. Gather resources and prepare to activate the extreme Dao weapon at any time. The Yi family, the Gu family patriarch, the emperor of the Grand Xia dynasty, and the sect masters frantically asked what had happened. Those sages shook their heads and sighed. Chaos was coming. The ancient royal family in the nest of 10,000 dragons might fully revive. Especially the dragon race, they would definitely be the first to revive. At that time, they might fall into a battle for supremacy. The dragon race and the ancient royal family would all revive. The sect masters were shocked. The disciples of the various holy lands and sects also went crazy. These were all legendary existences. Could it be that at this moment, they were really going to rule the world again? They had only read about the 10,000 feet race in ancient books. But after experiencing what happened in the nest of 10,000 dragons, they knew that these ancient races were definitely terrifying. They couldn't be underestimated. If they came out together, the world would be in chaos. Could it be that we really poked a hole in the sky? The Yi family patriarch's expression was ugly. The Queen Mother's expression was solemn. At this moment, all the sect masters and sect masters were filled with regret. Perhaps they really shouldn't have opened the nest of 10,000 dragons. Chapter 2777. When Lin Xian heard this news, he was also stunned. The 10,000 ancient races were about to fully revive. Perhaps the entire world would enter the ancient era's struggle for hegemony. This scene left him dazed. In Immortal Palace, Li Xuanhuan, the chief protector, and the other elders and powerhouses were also silent. The Crimson Dragon sucked in a cold breath. Damn, how could this be? Could it be that those things in the nest of 10,000 dragons were really going to fully revive? He was from the dragon race himself, so he naturally knew how shocking and threatening the revival of the other dragon race members would be. Moreover, this time, it seemed that it wasn't just the dragon race bloodline. It was very likely that the other ancient royal races were going to revive as well. This was going to pierce through the heavens. The corner of Lin Xian's mouth twitched. Originally, he was overjoyed because he received the news of the nest of 10,000 dragons. Before entering the nest of 10,000 dragons, he believed that this would be a heaven-defying journey. He would obtain a heaven-defying treasure. But who would have thought that such a change would happen? This time, it was probably not just his own matter, but the entire world. Li Xuanxian, the chief protector, and the others hurriedly looked for the old palace master, Xia Jiuyo. However, Xia Jiuyo didn't seem to be around. However, he did leave behind a scroll, which contained some instructions. Li Xuanxian and the others were shocked after reading it. Lin Xian took the scroll with a solemn expression. Soon, he gathered the powerhouses of Immortal Palace and said in a deep voice, "From today onwards, Immortal Palace will enter a state of war alert. Gather all the resources we can use and ensure that all the formations are unimpeded and can be activated at any time. At the same time, summon our disciples outside." Lin Xian did the same as the other Holy Lands. They knew that the true danger was about to arrive. Those factions and families that didn't enter the nest of 10,000 dragons were extremely surprised. They all asked what exactly happened in the nest of 10,000 dragons. They inquired from many sides. When they learned that countless disciples had died in the nest of 10,000 dragons, and even the elders and holy lords had fallen, these people were stunned. What? Even the holy lords had fallen? Heavens, what exactly happened? These people were extremely shocked. The sacred leader was such a terrifying existence, but he had actually fallen in the nest of 10,000 dragons. More than one. According to the statistics, a total of 9 sacred leaders and sect leaders had died, and more than 50 elders had died. It could be said that all the sacred grounds and sects had suffered heavy losses. This news shocked the entire world. So many terrifying powerhouses had fallen in the nest of 10,000 dragons. It was truly shocking. However, what shocked and frightened them even more was yet to come. At least 6 sages had descended upon the nest of 10,000 dragons and fought with the supreme existences within. In the end, they had fled in panic. Furthermore, many sacred grounds and sects had already begun to seal their mountains. This scene terrified all the martial artists in the world. Saints were godlike existences. They had transcended the heavens and earth and could use the power of the laws of nature. Such terrifying existences, a total of 6 of them, were actually scared away by the things in the nest of 10,000 dragons. What exactly was in the nest of 10,000 dragons? It was even rumored that a saint had been injured, and his saint blood had dyed the sky red. In the end, news spread from the clan of the ancients. The world was shocked. The 10,000 archaic clans were reviving. These words were like a mountain that pressed down on everyone's hearts, making them unable to breathe. These powerful families in the world were extremely shocked. They knew what these words meant. For a moment, these people's faces were filled with despair. Although the other martial artists didn't quite understand, they knew after asking around a little. The existences in the nest of 10,000 dragons had existed for countless years. In fact, they might even be from an era even older than the ancient times. These were all powerful races that were extremely terrifying. At this moment, they were about to revive in their world and compete with the human race. This was definitely a disaster. No wonder those sacred grounds and sects wanted to seal their mountains. Following this, the people would probably be plunged into misery and suffering. The world was wailing, and everyone was in despair. Just as everyone in the true spirit world was in a state of panic, the atmosphere in the nest of 10,000 dragons was incomparably solemn. In the nest of 10,000 dragons, countless auras of the Tao of Dragons surged as fiend-godlike figures stood there. Ever since the 6 sages had left, the powerhouses inside had all broken out of the ground from the divine crystals. These were all primordial creatures of all shapes and sizes. Some were in human form, and some were in the form of demonic beasts. They all emitted an incomparably terrifying aura. At this moment, the few primordial kings from before stood very respectfully. In front of them, there were a few figures surrounded by laws. They were the sages of their primordial royal families. In front of these sages, there was a piece of divine crystal that was about 2 meters tall. Sealed within the divine crystal was an old man. He was very old. The pair of dragon horns on his head were about to fall off. This old man wasn't completely sealed within the divine crystal. Half of his right arm poked out of the divine crystal. The aura he emitted was as deep as the sea. It was extremely terrifying. Even the few sages in front of him were extremely respectful towards the old man. The terrifying old man had his back to everyone. His gaze was fixed on the golden egg on the 5-colored altar in front of him. This golden egg was even more resplendent at this moment. The Tao patterns on it were like swimming dragons that began to swim. Suddenly, it absorbed all the surrounding aura of the Tao of Dragons. The aura of the Tao of Dragons transformed into giant dragons that all entered the golden dragon egg. This process lasted for 49 days. Finally, the golden dragon egg cracked open from the middle with a crack. Throughout the entire process, all the primordial creatures, primordial kings, sages, and terrifying old men in the nest of 10,000 dragons waited with rapt attention. For 49 days, no one moved, no one said a word. When they saw the golden dragon egg in front of them crack open, their eyes erupted with excitement. One by one, they stretched out their heads and looked forward. They were expectant and nervous. The golden dragon egg cracked open, and a golden claw reached out from inside. Immediately after, a golden figure appeared. It was a dragon, a golden dragon. Although it wasn't big, its body emitted a monstrous dragon's might. It roared towards the sky, and its tender voice rolled out. Buzz. The terrifying old man and a few sages took the lead and knelt down on one knee. Greetings, Dragon Prince. Greetings, Dragon Prince. The primordial kings and primordial creatures behind them all knelt on the ground. At this moment, countless people were extremely respectful. Even those sages had faces full of piety because this was the Dragon Prince, the descendant left behind by their Lord Dragon Emperor. The Dragon Emperor was the supreme existence of the dragon race. He had reached the peak and ruled over all races. That ancient era was truly incomparably terrifying. His status was equivalent to that of a great emperor on the human side. And this Dragon Prince was the son of the Dragon Emperor, which was equivalent to the son of a great emperor. One could imagine how precious his identity was. No wonder these sages of the nest of 10,000 dragons had to kneel down. The purest descendant of a great emperor had supreme dragon might and dragon blood. He was the future hope of the 10,000 Dragons dynasty. Chapter 2778. Roar. The little golden dragon looked at the people kneeling on the ground and let out a series of roars. Then, it began to devour the golden eggshell and crazily absorbed the surrounding Tao of Dragon aura. His body was rapidly growing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Buzz, buzz, buzz in front of it. The terrifying old man with half of his body sealed waved his palm and shot out streams of laws. They danced in the sky, forming a super array formation. It quickly gathered the surrounding Tao of Dragon aura and completely enveloped the little golden dragon. Then, he stood up, and the few saints beside him also stood up. As for the remaining primordial kings and primordial creatures, they were still kneeling on the ground. The old man with half of his body sealed was surrounded by light, illuminating a corner of the sky. If someone was here, they would definitely scream, because in the surrounding caves and walls, there were still nerves floating. Some of them were extremely huge. The sealed old man was extremely old. Those old men's eyes were tightly shut. They were still in a deep sleep. Obviously, These were all extremely terrifying supreme existences. Not all of them had awakened. The nest of 10,000 dragons was too big. Countless powerhouses were sleeping, so it was impossible for them all to awaken. Perhaps they would awaken bit by bit. Perhaps these super powerhouses would be preserved as a foundation. Only when the nest of 10,000 dragons or the dragon prince were in danger would these super powerhouses be revived. After all, these terrifying powerhouses were already very old and had reached the verge of their lifespans drying up. Once they were revived, it would be very difficult for them to be sealed by the divine crystals again. Therefore, their revival was especially important. They had to grasp the opportunity well. The old man with half of his body sealed looked around disdainfully. He said in a deep voice, "From today onwards, the 10,000 dragons' court will revive. We will reappear on the ground and rule the world. We will rule the world." Those humans were completely ants. They had been taken advantage of for so many years. It was time for them to scram to the side. A cold voice sounded. The primordial creatures roared crazily. They raised their arms and shouted. Waves of killing intent spread out. Then, the old man with half of his body sealed changed the topic. "We were revived in this era. There are other reasons. We have deduced that this might be the golden age that Lord Dragon Emperor mentioned. The crisis has passed. This time, the immortal gate might open. This is the only hope of becoming an immortal and entering the immortal world. We will use the power of the entire clan to make the Dragon Prince the new Dragon Emperor and help him successfully enter the immortal sect. He would become the one and only immortal in the world." The words of the dragon tribe's progenitor echoed in the surroundings like a clap of thunder. Immortal ascension. The goal of the dragon tribe's ancestor was to help the dragon prince become an immortal. If the other martial artists of the human race knew about this, they would definitely be stunned. This idea was simply too heaven-defying. After all, everyone's goal in the true spirit world was to become a great Lo. The great emperor, on the other hand, had only just begun to consider the question of becoming an immortal. Now that the old ancestor had such thoughts, one had to admit that the dragon race was truly terrifying. "Don't worry, patriarch. We will do our best to help the crown prince ascend the immortal gate." Behind him, the saints, Archean kings, and countless ancient creatures called out respectfully. Primordium ancient mine. This was also a forbidden area of the human race. All of the human race's crystals had been transported here from the primeval ancient mine and its surroundings. From there, all kinds of seeker spirit masters cut out heavenly materials and earthly treasures. There were even ancient medicines, but no one dared to delve into them. This was because more than one sect master had entered, but in the end, they didn't even cause a ripple and never came out again. This was a place that even saints would take a detour when they saw it. At this moment, in the depths of the primeval ancient mine, there were actually huge godly realms floating. Inside those deity crystals, there were also figures sealed in ice. It was actually the nest of an archaic dynasty. The dragon race of the nest of 10,000 dragons has already awakened. It's time for us to appear. Good. Let our descendants. Let's reign over the land again. Those old figures let out cold voices. Around them were even more ancient creatures. At this moment, they were also awakening one by one. Death Demon Abyss. One of the 5 forbidden areas of the true spirit world. This was an invincible abyss. It was incomparably dark, and no one knew where it connected to. There was once a peerless expert who deduced that this place seemed to be connected to the true hell. Therefore, this was also a forbidden area. Ordinary humans didn't dare to come here. Even saints didn't dare to casually step in. At this moment, a few ancient creatures crawled out of the death demon abyss. They had blue skin, long fangs, and terrifying scales. Roar. As soon as they crawled out, they roared at the sky, their voices shattering the 9 heavens. Behind them, more and more ancient beasts ran out. Some of them were covered in blood, as if they had really crawled out of hell. They were extremely ferocious and terrifying. Fortunately, there were no signs of human habitation within a radius of millions of miles, because no one dared to be here. Otherwise, they would definitely faint from fright. Void Sea. Located in the extreme north of the northern plains, no one could fight their way here. Moreover, no one dared to come here, because this was also one of the 5 forbidden areas of the true spirit world. Meanwhile, in the Sea of Oblivion, countless chi of oblivion rumbled as one after another ancient beasts charged out from it. The first few were extremely terrifying. Apart from these forbidden areas, there were also ancient creatures in other places. Clearly, the 10,000 ancient races that had been sleeping in the true spirit world had awakened one after another. No one knew if it was because of the dragon race's awakening in the nest of 10,000 dragons, or some other reason. But without exception, these ancient creatures had really come back to life. They would definitely reign over the world. Sure enough, although some places were forbidden areas and dangerous places that ordinary humans didn't dare to enter, but more and more ancient creatures awakened, and the commotion and impact were too great. Finally, someone saw ancient creatures jumping in the mountains with their own eyes. This news spread throughout the 5 continents of the true spirit world. For a moment, the world was in an uproar again. The great sects of the sacred lands and the ancient families were also shocked. What was going on? Why were there ancient creatures in other places apart from the nest of 10,000 dragons? Moreover, they were all revived. Damn it, the 10,000 ancient races. It's the 10,000 ancient races. A living fossil screamed miserably. Was the era of the ancient era of hegemony really going to reappear? That was an era that only existed in legends, an era that had gone through countless years, and no one had any impression of it. However, the records in those ancient books shocked them greatly. The 10,000 ancient races, each race was extremely powerful and terrifying. Back then, the human race was considered a relatively weak race among the 10,000 ancient races. Later, a few emperors appeared one after another, turning the tide and bringing the human race to the peak. But now, the great emperor of the human race had already vanished into thin air, and a new emperor hadn't been born. In fact, it had been tens of thousands of years. There were no new emperors. If the 10,000 ancient races descended again, how could the human race resist? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.